Good afternoon all. Daniela, good afternoon. Rockman Gangadine, good afternoon to you. Camille Dean, good afternoon. Roxanne, hi. Thank you for my brooms, Roxanne. You're too kind. Desmond Samuel, good afternoon. Neil Francois, good afternoon to you. Cyril Mayas, good afternoon. Heather and Tara Noel, good afternoon to all of you. Yes, we have a late start today. Couldn't be helped. I had some work to do this morning, professional wise, so it kind of kept me back from starting at the usual start time at 11. Proud to be Trini. Good day to you, sir. Oh, well, I am assuming, I mean, at Pigeon. What's going on here? Let me see if this will work. Leon Joseph, good afternoon. Ruben Rogers, Deborah Duranti, Julius Puna, Nigel Woodley, good afternoon. Claire Irish, hi Claire. Istra Blake, good afternoon. Alison Boyce, Angela Maru, good afternoon to you guys. Hi Diane, Kenneth Gabriel, good afternoon. Annette Baird, hi Arlene, Jennifer Dorset. Let's see here. Thank you, Roxanne. Hi Val. J Dimples, good afternoon. Karen Gasper, good afternoon to you. Minad Lazare, Jeremy Lewis. Hi Deborah. And Marie Bryce, good afternoon. Annette Beard. Whose birthday is it? Or your birthday is today, Annette? Or you have someone who's celebrating a birthday? Hey Cynthia. Yes, Dimitri, I'm late today. I had to make some runs this morning. I had to go to St. Joseph. I had to go to Sangre Grande, and I had to make a quick stop in Port of Spain and then come back. So I knew I was not going to make it. Even though I left home early, I knew I wasn't going to make it back in time for 11 o'clock. Brenda Isaac, good afternoon to you. Margaret Thomas, Jennifer. Hey, Jen. Leon Joseph, good afternoon. Simdom, 17, afternoon. Cheryl Charles. Stephen Martel, good day, sir. Right, well, in the interest of time, let me start one time, because even though I still running, but yeah, about. Oh, Leon is from Toco, okay. Haven't been to Toco in years, need to make a trip. Ruth Fronton, locked in from Kissimmee, Florida. Florida calling me again. Ruth, I normally run up for Thanksgiving, so we'll see how that goes this year. Candace Joseph, good afternoon. Hi, Akida. Good afternoon to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Mauricia Kagan. Philomena Collis, good afternoon. Anton Batiste, greetings. Cheryl Seeley, Kathy Ann Townsend, good afternoon to you all as well. All right, let me see what I have there, but I'm going to get this. Anybody see the leader of the opposition yet? I understand we're still looking for her. She's yet to put in an appearance, so I understand. I would think that by now, given all of the rumors circulated, that she would at least have made an appearance somewhere. Anyway, the talk is that the reason why they created this bacchanal. Yes, Brian, evening classes. Jeremy Lewis. Lovely day indeed. Jenny Gay, Cupid, James, good afternoon. Pamela Nelson, good afternoon. Yeah, they say the reason why she's engaging in this bacchanal with the Mahasabha is so that she wouldn't have to attend. She have a reason not to attend any Diwali functions coming up. I think the Diwali Nagar is supposed to open probably next week or something. This week coming in. So she would normally put in an appearance, and of course the whole parliamentary caucus will be waiting when she steps out of the Prado to greet her, and POB sends to her and so on. As I always say, the only thing they haven't met is lying on the ground for her to walk on their back. Morning, Brian. Good afternoon, sir, Brian. Yes, Mul, she's missing in action. You know, people, I saw Wall Street allegedly did an interview with her, allegedly. But what I found strange about the interview is that she kept saying the same thing over and over, and it sounded as if it was just a recording that was being played. And I don't know if Wall Street tried to pull a fast one, where he asked her a question, how is she doing? And she answered And that was all you heard. The response to the question, but you heard it about 2 or 3 times, and then the phone cut off. And that was the interview there. So I see Wall Street put out a whole long statement about the UNC cabal page, and they spreading misinformation and propaganda, and they gave you a whole list of things that you need to do to determine whether or not information put out by a page is valid. Wall Street, if people were to take your advice, they would have reported your page a long time. Long time, because all you do is spread propaganda. I don't understand why all these people want to score a Hail Mary pass to say they are the ones who assisting Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. If Mrs. Prasad Bisesa wants, why she didn't come to the Sunday morning press conference this morning? Why shouldn't she make an appearance? I just ask it. Or if it is she's unwell, okay. No problem with that. Nothing wrong with that. People get sick all the time. But anyway, she's supposed to be strong like Hulk. So we will see how that goes. So I have, let me see, boys. So I saw the Prime Minister had his post-cabinet press briefing last week, Thursday, and he would have expressed his disappointment, his anger at what is taking place in the public service, where you have public servants openly defying cabinet instructions coming from the cabinet that they are choosing to do their own thing contrary to government policy. And so when for years we've been saying that, notwithstanding the fact that the government is supposed to be in charge, are they really in charge? Because when the Minister of Finance could announce in the budget that public servants are to receive, those who have accepted the 4% are to receive their back pay by December, in time for Christmas, and you have a public permanent secretary informing the minister, well, here what that can happen until May, So, yeah, you pay off it in your mouth. What is the reason for the hold up? Why can't it be done by December, right? So the Prime Minister had to come and let people know, hey, listen, this is what, that a public servant could tell their boss, you want this, but nada not happening. That can happen until the earliest May, probably by May. So if that is the case, and you're saying those who would have accepted before, that they can't receive their back pay until at least May, earliest May, then when the PSA and the holdout unions, as I call them, despite David Abdullah don't like that too, the holdout unions, when they finally settle or whatever is the outcome of the negotiations for their membership happens, how long will those workers have to wait to get their back pay? Until December next year. How to be? So a whole year and more from now, those of you whose unions have decided unilaterally, without consultation with you, that they are going to drag this thing out for the long haul, and to hell with you. You who at least you'll say, right, the 4% is poultry, but at least it's somewhat of an increase. And they decide, well, we're holding out. Nothing for you. But they still drawing the big pay, because at the end of the month, Leroy Batiste still getting whatever is his big salary. Leroy Batiste is still driving a Range Rover and enjoying all of the other perks that come with being the president of the Public Services Association, the backdoor president, but president nonetheless. And I saw he, in one of his rare not press conferences, but in one of his rare interviews with the media, where there are sound bites of him saying something, he decided to take issue and take the Prime Minister to task because of what the Prime Minister said on Thursday with respect to senior public servants who are defying government instructions, cabinet instructions, and he sees it as the Prime Minister threatening public servants and being high-handed and so on. All of a sudden, Leroy Batiste want to jump to the defense of public servants, right? But here it is, the Prime Minister is saying, we want to pay public servants the back pay by Christmas. And this senior public servant is telling the minister that can't happen. It cannot happen by Christmas, right? And instead of Leroy Batiste come and well, so, well, okay, well, you were right. So you want to come and try to defend the public servant and chastise the Prime Minister. What was your story, Leroy? What really going on with you? I thought you were supposed to be pro-worker. Anyway, we'll see how that pans out, right? But it reminded me of something I've spoken about before, where the Prime Minister one time, a couple of years ago in the Parliament, would have spoken about instructions being given by Cabinet to public servants, and they are choosing to defy the Cabinet, not carry out the instructions. And he said to this, Madam Speaker, you would not believe the level of pushback that we have been getting from public servants to carry out an instruction from the Cabinet. Simple thing, to put the branding of all ministry vehicles onto the vehicle, so that when public servants take in government vehicle and going on the beach, dropping the children to school, going to the market and joyriding all over the place, and then using the government fleet card to fill up the car, using gas, wear and tear, wearing on the tires and all kind of thing, and then the state has to pay for that. So that if you, a member of the public, see a government vehicle somewhere that it shouldn't be, so as the Prime Minister gave the example, if on a Sunday morning, Sunday lunchtime, you see a Ministry of Education vehicle park up on Maracas Beach, you know they're not working. You know they're not doing any work, right? So you could call and say, look, vehicle number so and so and so and so, Ministry of Education upon Maracas Beach. And I see the driver of the vehicle, he and two women lie down on the beach relaxing. And so when they came out of the vehicle, and towel and whatnot, they went by to Bacon Shack, they buy some beers, and now they're going on the beach and they're relaxing. So we know he's using the government's vehicle, abusing state resources for his own benefit. So therefore, he needs to be called to order. They want to do that. They just want no branding on the vehicle, so you will assume it's a private vehicle, and they're going about costing you taxpayers' money, liking themselves, and nothing can be done about it. And waiting, hoping that the government that passed that edict, the PNM, will be voted out of office, and the UNC will come in. And because the instruction didn't come from the UNC, it ended up in the waste paper basket. And they continue to do what it is that they do. $55 million spent on that building on Park Street. The DPP decided he's not moving in, and that's that. He couldn't care how much money the state's spending, he's not moving in. If you, the DPP, didn't want to move in, well, fine, you could have stayed in your present accommodation, but send your staff to occupy the building. Because you're complaining about space. Send some of them there, and if it is that you personally feel that you are not safe, that those accommodations on Park Street compromises your security, well, then you stay in the current building that you're in. Because I think a budget is allocated to the DPP's office. So continue to occupy that building. But at the end of the day, $55 million down the drain, and the building was not used. So the landlord is $55 million richer. His building is there for him to rent it out to whoever wants to come now. They now have a building with bulletproof glass, and they can like this. Well, you can probably jack up the rent a little bit for that. But Prime Minister nonetheless is incensed that the DPP would have taken such a course of action at great expense to the state. And that money cannot be recouped because the landlord did nothing wrong. The building was available for use and it wasn't. So yesterday I was in Port of Spain and I was driving down Frederick Street, and I saw on Frederick Street several transport trucks on either side from just after KFC, going almost all the way down to City Hall. And these transport trucks had on them a number of cabinets and so on and other office furniture. And I felt pleased because I realized they were moving out this furniture from rented accommodation that was being used by the Ministry of Health. Now that the Ministry of Health building is finished, and all of these departments and so on that were occupying and renting space here, there, and everywhere, all throughout Port of Spain, they are now moving into the ministry's headquarters around the Savannah. So the millions of dollars that was being spent in rent to rent all of these little offices and stuff that you didn't even know was Ministry of Health, you just pass in and see in these doors there, but you don't know what it is. That rent will now cease. So when they come and they tell you that the government, this is a 1% government, and they're only about putting money in the pockets of the 1%. I've said it before and I'll repeat it. This government has done more to dent the pockets of the 1% than any other government in the history of this country, perhaps. They continue by establishing state real estate to take money, rental money, out of the pockets of the so-called 1%. So all of these buildings now will just be there, empty, no rent being paid. And that money is now saved to pay for other things that could benefit citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. That's your government working for you. For the whole time, between 2010 to 2015, and they're renting all these pieces. Did it occur to the leader of the opposition, no, that we build a new head office for the Ministry of Health? No. It was interesting to hear Anil Roberts and his contribution compliment the state, saying it was a very nice building. He admitted, he said, Pastor Savannah, I see that building, it's looking real nice. Very good. Finally, something positive that comes out of his mouth. But it came with a caveat, night, looking nice, but I won't even bother to talk about the but. Yeah? And actually, he's a waste of time. I think he was on the Sunday morning waste of time press conference this morning. But anyway, so kudos to the government, the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, for again undertaking an initiative to reduce that hefty rental bill that the government has been paying every month, every year, for the last how many years, to a specific sector of the society. And every time they do something like this, it is money that remains in the state coffers and less money going to the so-called 1%. Not that I have an issue with them, but I'm saying this government is doing things that their predecessors didn't do. So while they want to come and tell you about how much building the government rented and how much money in rent, let us take note of the fact that they didn't do it. This administration did it, right? So I continued to listen to the budget debate. Well, it's complete. But I went back and listened to the contributions in the Senate, right? And I told you all I wanted to play a clip from the Minister of Finance, because I think it put a lot of things into perspective. But before I go there, I want to take issue this afternoon, with Senator Jayanti Lakshmi-Dayal, the woman who was instrumental in having a law that was over 100 years old overturned, enabling persons accused of murder to access bail. So long before, as I keep saying, all of us listening here, we thought that law was in the books. Back when murder wasn't what it is today, when it wasn't, most of the murders that you would have heard about 100 years ago were premeditated. They didn't think, well, okay, I'm going and kill this man. As now obtains, where murders are planned, and these guys following people, they find out where people are, and they go in and shooting them and so on. Right? I want to play a little bit of Jayanti Lakshmi-Dayal for you. Listen to her logic for advocating that persons who are accused of murder and whatever else should not be denied access to bail. Let me get this. Right. No, it's not ready for this yet. Let me get the other one. So, let me go back. So, listen to Jayanti here. Let me just get this here.
Citizens safe. The problem with crime, Mr. President, is that this government doesn't understand about prevention, detection, and rehabilitation. And they don't understand how to treat with all three in a way that would bring down crime and result in a reduction in recidivism. If you ask them what is the plan on crime, you know what's the plan? We want to deny bail, but the UNC wouldn't support us. Again, intellectual laziness and incompetence. That the only thing that they could come and present to this parliament that they say will help reduce crime is no bail. So whether you're innocent, you're guilty, you're a first-time offender, you're a repeat offender, they want to restrict your access to bail when you are supposed to enjoy a right to reasonable bail, when you are supposed to enjoy the presumption of innocence. But it sounds nice, and it sounds nicer to blame the UNC. So that is what, only them innocent. But everything else, deny bail. But you can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And I'm happy to say that it was not just the UNC in this house, but it was also the independent bench that said, listen, you have not come here with sufficient evidence to show that this is in any way effective to treat the crime problem. Go back and rethink your strategy. Come up with different solutions. Yes. And what? Nothing. The murders going up and nothing from this government to treat with crime. What they will say? Blame the UNC. The UNC passed electronic monitoring legislation, first introduced it in this parliament. They said they had issues, they wanted to make changes or whatever, they brought amendments and so on. Electronic monitoring is internationally recognized as not a broad brush approach to restrict people's liberty, whilst it takes them 10 plus years to have their day in court, but that they can continue with their lives. The cost to the state of maintaining the prisoner in remand yard is significantly reduced. The family life of the individual who is accused but not yet convicted is preserved. I marvel sometimes when I hear the same police officers, some of them members opposite and so on. So, well, we have this problem with single mothers and absent fathers and so on. When you impose a restriction on bail, you know what you do? You create a single mother household. You create a single mother. So the supposed plans and policies that you all come up with your intellectually lazy approach to governance is to create single mother homes. You create families with children who do not see their parents, who do not see their father for 13 years. And in 13 years, when he comes out of prison because he's not convicted, because we have no DNA, we have no CCTV, the witness who was in witness protection left or dead or never got into witness protection or refusing to give evidence, the child has not seen the father for 13 years. The child didn't grow up with a father to guide them. The father is isolated from the community. He is told at the end of 13 years, sorry, the state doesn't have enough evidence. The state doesn't have enough evidence against you.
Senator, have a seat. Senator Naked, who you are not right now on the floor, carded to speak. You will have your turn. Your colleague is the person on the floor who is recognized. Senator Lachmidial.
President. Mr. President, it pains them because they love to come here. When I first came into the Senate, I remember the former Attorney General, Akili Charles spent a decade of his life fighting to prove his innocence. A woman by the name of Debbie Jacob was so moved by his story that she wrote an entire editorial about it in the newspaper, about the type of person that he was. But when Akili Charles was told after 9 years, we have no evidence against you, okay, you're free to go. He picked up his one rubber slippers and went back to the area that he came from, which is still riddled with crime and criminality and gangs.
Your constituency.
Right? Yes, your constituency, a PNM control constituency. And for 9 years, got no education, or nobody will hire him because he came out of remand yard. Everybody in the community knew that he was in remand yard. He hadn't seen his family and had lost all connection and support, that social support system. If you have electronic monitoring, and anybody who isn't so lazy that they actually think about the benefits of putting on an ankle bracelet on someone who is accused of a crime and giving them the opportunity to continue to work, take care of themselves. We have to allocate money in this budget to feed and house and try to clothe and give medical and dental and all the other support that is needed in the remand yard. You can cut that expenditure and buy the electronic monitoring bracelets.
Now, that's Senator Jayanti Lachmidial, right? UNC Senator Jayanti Lachmidial. That is her logic for defending the UNC's position that every and anybody who is accused of a crime must be afforded the right to access bail. Forget the contribution that the denial of bail can make or have on curbing the crime situation, which they lament every single day, every opportunity they get. All we hear is crime out of control, crime this, crime that, crime the other, and crime the next, right? So first off, let me deal with this issue of the ankle bracelet, which I touched on before a couple weeks ago or so, right? She's saying that is the panacea, that is the silver bullet. You have all of these people who are in prison and you could easily let them out on bail and put a ankle bracelet on them, and that will solve the problem because at any given point in time, the police will know where they are. We saw where just a couple weeks ago, a man who was on $2 million bail, $2 million bail for human trafficking, they put an ankle bracelet on him, right? And then what happened? Ankle bracelet, the alarm or whatever it is went off because it was tampered with. And by the time the police arrived where the ankle bracelet was where they would have detected it, the ankle bracelet was there minus the ankle. Yeah? Like Jayanti seemed to forget which country she lived in. She seems to think this is the United States of America. Okay? Where you can put an ankle bracelet on a man, you take it off, and within no time at all, as soon as the police detect tampering, right away, officers are dispatched, and these persons will be apprehended within a short space of time. I have not seen any articles or any stories in the newspaper stating that this individual has since been apprehended, right? But she's saying, easy, you will save the state money, just buy ankle bracelets and put it on the ankles of these accused persons, and just let them go and enjoy normal life and go and work. And work. You hear what she says? Let them go and work and support their families. Well, last I checked, in Trinidad and Tobago, most employers these days want a certificate of character when you're applying for a job. Even for the most menial of jobs, they want a certificate of character so that they know that this is somebody that they could trust. This is not somebody who has a criminal rap sheet. This is not somebody who you will always have to be looking over your shoulder to see what it is that they're doing. And you don't have to be concerned that your place will be robbed because they come to work there, but they're staking out the premises so that they could plan a robbery, a heist, as the case may be. Once it is that you have been charged for a crime, unless and until that matter has been dispensed with by a court and you have been found guilty or innocent, any attempt that you make to get a certificate of character will show that you have been charged, you have whatever pending charges and so on. Who go in and hire them? So you go in to fill out an application form and you're wearing an ankle bracelet. So the employer obviously know, hey, where's that? He ain't chopping, even if you're trying to hide it, as the case may be. What you going to do? The certificate of character will say you have charges. So from the time the employer see that, they may want nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. Now, we can't hire you. And then you're going to wearing an ankle bracelet. At some point in time, they must see it. So what does that say? So where are you now for? You're out on bail for what? Murder? Okay, all right, forget that. No work for you. So then, how is he to support his family? He can't get legitimate work. So, but he needs money because, as she says, by denying these persons bail, you create single-parent homes, single-parent households, and you leave the children to grow up fatherless, right? And in an attempt to reduce the number of single-parent homes and reduce the likelihood of children being fatherless, if their father is accused of a crime, the police find him with guns, the police, he is charged for murder, she's saying, you shouldn't lock them up. Nevertheless, never mind the fact that they've shown themselves to be menaces to society, don't lock them up. Let them go back up. So when they can't get legitimate work because they can't get a certificate of character, a clean certificate of character, and they're wearing an ankle bracelet, how do you think they're going to get the money to support the family? How? How are they going to do it? Not going back to the same life of crime that put them in the situation they're in the first place? Because nobody's going to hire them. And even if somebody was willing to hire them, the reason why they are before the courts is because they had no inclination towards clean work, towards legitimate work. They don't want to go and work no 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or 6 to 2, 10 to 6, working anywhere, getting what they like to call dog money, when it is you could pull back a scalp and make more money by doing that, right? When you could go and extort money from people, just make a phone call and threaten people, and if it is they don't pay you, whatever thing will happen to them, their family, and so on, and so they're paying you. So what you could make in one heist, it will probably take you several months to make by working a normal job, a legitimate job. They're not interested in that. That is why the police was able to find them with illegal firearms, because they're not interested in honest work. They're not interested in an honest day's work. So listening to Senator Jayanti Lakshmi tell us here that this is a government that is intellectually lazy and only want to blame the UNC because the UNC refused to support legislation that would deny persons bail and all of that. And that is the only solution the government could come up with to treat with crime, is to deny people bail. Jayanti, you serious? You serious as an attorney? You see, she has to continue to do that because she has been very instrumental in every step of the way in ensuring that bail is available to all Tom, Dick, Harry, Jenny, and Jane, regardless of the crime of which they are accused of committing. And so I was amazed when I listened to her in the same contribution here, talking about elderly couples being robbed and terrorized and so on. And I was surprised that nobody on the other side, the government side, would have called her to book, called her to, and taken her to task to tell her the same elderly couple that you're talking about, who were robbed and beaten and terrorized, were beaten and terrorized by a man who got off on bail for murder in August. Thanks to you, thanks to your efforts, the efforts of yourself and your chamber colleague, Anna Logan, that individual was able to get out on bail after sitting on remand for some 13 to 14 years for murder. Thanks to you. I'm surprised nobody threw that in her face to remind her of that. She have real testicular fortitude, or if they want to call it breasticular fortitude, to even talk about the matriarch and patriarch of Passad, the Food King, to even reference them. She has no shame. And I make the point again, if it is that those two persons had been killed by that individual, I want to know what Jayanti would have said. If she would have gone to the wake and apologized to the family that this individual was able to mastermind and carry out this dastardly act on their loved ones because of what she did. Simply, and they're trying to fool people. It had nothing to do with they being concerned about households becoming single parent households and children being childless, fatherless. It's nonsense. The main motive behind them pursuing that was to create a whole new component, a whole new constituency of clients that they could represent. Whether or not they get the bail is beside the point. Once you engage my services to apply for bail for you, you have to pay money. So they realize we have all these people who sit in on remand and deny bail because of our law. But we could now go and petition the court to overturn this law and make bail available to all these people. And when they see 1, 2, 3, 4 people, 5 applying for bail and getting through, well, now everybody want to try and see if they could get through as well. Hey, well, like money in my pocket. How long a bail application will take? And when we charge them, they're willing to pay whatever money to be able to get out on bail, right? And if it is that they have the goons outside there who want them to come back out so that they could recruit them once more and recruit their services, of course they will pay the money, stand the bail for them. You get through? How much bail you have? No problem. But you get bail. We pay that money, so you have to pay that back somehow. How are you going and pay it? How are you going and pay it? You're going down by Matuks and fill out an application form to work the night shift. You're going to look for a work in CPEP. You're going to find the nearest CPEP contractor and ask him if he can put you on the payroll for $1,800 a month. How are you paying back that? Obviously, in the words of Peter Minchell, ask a silly question. So when it is that the criminal element pays for you, but they stand your bail, when you come out, you know you have to go and work. And the kind of work that you're doing. So understand that whoever paid for this guy's bail, after he was sitting on remand for 13, 14 years, whatever the amount, because I imagine the bail for someone accused of murder ought to be significant, right? To act as a deterrent for them to abscond. Yet still the Wednesday before this happened, he was supposed to appear in court and didn't. And his lawyers had no clue as to where he was. No clue. They could give the court no explanation as to where the client was. And to hell with that. Well, he's not here, Your Honor. We don't know. We've tried to reach him and we can't contact him. And he was aware that he had court this morning. So, all right. Well, like the police problem now is the police to go and find. Yeah? So if it is he has to now find the money to repay those persons who stood his bail for him. And he knows, hey, when you abscond and you don't show up in court, your bail forfeit. He needs to put on a major heist. I need to rob somebody with big money to be able to pay back those guys or those persons, whichever entity it is that stood my bail for me. I need to do a little petty crime. I can't go and snatch no purse on Frederick Street. I can't go and hold up nobody and take no wallet. Or run in no gas station and get a few dollars. I need to rob somebody who have big money home in a safe, who pocket deep. So that chunk of money I get, they could pay. Yeah, but Jayanti is studying that. Let me highlight the hypocrisy of Jayanti for you all again. Right? Let me get this. Right. Where is it? Just now, let me get it here. Where is it? Yes, here it is. In February last year, February of 22, a 40-year-old woman by the name of Selena Mohammed was murdered in South, somewhere around Palm East. She was shot. She was found shot to death in her car in the wee hours of the morning. I think she was leaving for work and she was ambushed and shot. This young lady was Jayanti Lakshmidiyal's neighbor, and the media on the scene stumbled upon Jayanti and they interviewed her. I want you all to listen to what Jayanti had to say, right? I'm going to play this for you. Listen to the hypocrite.
You never really hear anything about Palm East Bend in San Fernando. So when 3 loud explosions rang out this morning, most residents did not think they were gunshots. But on checking, they were gripped with horror when they found their neighbor, Selena Mohammed, dead in the driver's seat of her wagon. Police say that around 8:05 this morning, Mohammed, 40, left her home in her Nissan Ring Road wagon. As she reached a few houses away, someone shot her several times, causing her wagon to crash into a residence wall.
It seems as though there was someone that ambushed the deceased this morning. Young woman, very, very sad that she lost her life this morning. She's going to work. Her family was very distraught and the neighborhood very traumatized because, it's very close to all of us, to where we live. This is a very quiet neighborhood. It's not something that we don't really have.
Considering that it was the second brazen killing in San Fernando in a week following last week's double murder at South Park, residents are now considering paying for private security. Opposition Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyal, who is a resident of the community, was left shaken. She heard the gunshots while taking part in a virtual court hearing.
The prevalence of gun violence is becoming a little too prevalent, and I think residents here are now starting to feel like it's literally on your doorstep. And so, that time of the morning, a lot of people would have been coming back and leaving to go to work and driving out. So this car that would have been these murderers would have been in could have just passed by any of us coming in and out of our houses this morning. So it's scary.
Mohammed's brother, Shane, says he does not know if anyone threatened his sister, nor why someone wanted her dead. Meanwhile, investigators believe she was shot outside the wagon by someone waiting on her. They initially suspected a robbery because a bag was missing, but as CNC3 visited her home, police from St. Margaret's came by to return the bag, saying someone found it in Clapton Bay and took it to the station. Councillor for Laissez-Faire West, Laramine Rishi Balaram Singh, says instead of government spending $30 million on Carnival, it should allocate the money to the police service to increase its crime-fighting capabilities.
We are investigating the granting of firearm users license to law-abiding citizens who are trying to protect themselves because the government is not doing it for them. Why don't we invest that same time and energy and effort and resources in pulling the illegal firearms and guns off the street that are taking the lives of innocent people? I call on the government to really step up because Trinidad and Tobago is collapsing.
Kevin Feldman, CNC3 News.
That was the hypocrite, Jayanti Lakshmidiyal. The victim's family is very distraught. The neighborhood is traumatized. Right? This is Jayanti. The prevalence of violent. What she said by the prevalence of violent shootings or whatever is becoming all too prevalent. Right? I want to ask Jayanti, your next door neighbor, when it is you took a decision as a member of parliament not to support the extension of the sunset clause with respect to the denial of bail for 120 days to persons accused of who are repeat offenders of gun crimes, what did your neighbors say? The family of this woman who was killed. Did you go across to them and say, hey, look, I'm so happy to tell you that me and my parliamentary colleagues on the UNC side, we decided that we're not going to support the bail amendment bill. So that if it is, the police were to apprehend the persons who shot your loved one, and they don't have sufficient evidence to charge with murder, but they have evidence to charge them with gun crimes, they could get bail the next day. How do you feel about that? And then I want to ask Jayanti, if it is, based on what you have now done, to have murder now is now a bailable offense. If the police were to apprehend the men or the perpetrators, the persons who killed their loved one, and the persons are held today and then tomorrow they get out on bail, are you proud to go to the family and say, hey, guess what? You heard the police caught the man who shot your loved one, but guess what? They're out on bail. Thanks to me and thanks to Anand, they get off. You think the family will say, oh, Jayanti, well done. Well done, Jayanti. And pat on the back. Salina Mohammed was a mother. She was a mother, Jayanti. Since you're so concerned about children growing up fatherless, well, these children have to grow up motherless, Jayanti. Motherless. What about them? No concern for them. No concern for them. But you're concerned about the children and the wife and the children of the persons who are accused of murder. That the government is creating single-parent homes. So what about when they go and commit home invasions and kill people, and they kill the breadwinner, the father of the household, and they make the wife a single parent by killing her husband, and her children fatherless by killing the father, Jayanti? What about them, Jayanti? So you want to use one example of somebody who you say he was innocent and he was in prison for 9 years, 5 of which was under them. 5 of which was under them, under Anand Ramlogan as Attorney General. The same man who represented him to get him out of jail, right? To get Akini Charles out of jail. The same man. Under him, jailer make the right thing. So he said, for 5 years, jailer make the right thing. So he had no problem with Akini Charles sitting down in prison while he was Attorney General, regardless to the prison conditions, because jailer make the right thing. And as far as he concerned, Akini Charles was guilty. Right? The presumption of innocence. For 5 years, why didn't Anand come to the parliament to amend the law to make murder a bailable offense when he was Attorney General? Why didn't he do that for the 5 years, 3 months? Well, he wasn't there for 5 years. He was there for 4 years and something. Why he didn't do that when he was Attorney General? Since he's so concerned about people sitting on remand who are innocent. He waited until he left office, and all of a sudden a light bulb moment. He's so concerned, he became concerned after the fact. Jayanti, why didn't you advocate when they were in office? Why you didn't pick up the phone and call Kamla or call Anand, in whose chambers you now sit? Why you didn't call him then and say, Anand, here what now? And have a fellow sitting and remand him Akini Charles and he innocent. You could amend the law to make murder a bailable offense so Akini could get out on bail. Why you didn't tell Anand when he was Attorney General? Anand, you know, we have so many people sitting and languishing on remand, and these are persons who might be innocent. Can you all just buy some ankle bracelets and put on their ankles so they could go out and work and support their families, Anand? When it is in 2011, when they had the state of emergency and they were locking up all them little black boys because they fit the description, Inspector Singh grabbed them by the scruff of the back or the scruff of the neck and throw them in the back of the Maria. We're going down the road. You weren't concerned then, Jayanti, about single parent homes and fatherless children, Jayanti? You wasn't concerned then. Anand wasn't concerned either because jailer make the right fig. Lock them up and we go find the evidence later. What? They're going to lose their jobs? And they could be very well innocent. To hell with that. We don't care. That's a problem. If it is they subsequently found to be innocent, well, you put them back out on the street and let them find out work. That's not a problem because at the end of the month, Anand collecting his salary. At the end of the month, or whenever, kickbacks being paid via state briefs because Vincent Nelson sharing out, pelting out money, and the other 3 or 4 lawyers who were also identified and who they said under investigation as well for doing the same thing. So he bailed in money. He was like Scrooge McDuck. He had a whole money bin. He could go and just dive off of the diving board and swim in it, man. Yeah, man, swimming in it. So he couldn't give 2 hoots about these young men who are innocent, but just because they fit the description. You know why? Number 1, they're African. Number 2, their hair probably in plaits. Number 3, their pants below their bottom. They're wearing a white beater vest and a rubber slippers. Number 4, they're smelling like weed. So they fit the description. Right? These young men who just on the block, they have the capacity to make the 1990 coup look like a tea party because that was the excuse, that was the premise they used to have the state of emergency. And but all of that they tell us. And not one gun found, not one bullet found, not a grenade, nothing found. But all they had a state of emergency for months. Thousands of young black boys lock up. But today, you have the naked sit down next to Janty talking about they make care about black people. Naked, where were you when these young black boys were being arrested, Naked? Where were you when these young boys couldn't show up for work the next day and they lost their job, Naked? Where were you to call Kamala and tell her, hey, that's not right? Where were you to call Annan and tell him, hey, that's not right? When Annan said, jailer make to right fig, lock them up and we go find the evidence later. Where were you, Naked? When it is that you saw that all of these young men who were being arrested, looked, all of them had certain characteristics in common. The same thing that you're accusing this government of how they do like black people. Is that how you show care? And then talking about the UNC is the party for the poor? You for real? Naked? The UNC is the party for the poor? And that's how you all treated the poor? Today, for the last 8 years, how much millions of dollars the state has had to pay out in compensation to these little black boys that today Naked so concerned about, but were arrested, right? Got criminal records. Arrested for no God, Inspector Singh, where's that one by Inspector Singh? Inspector Singh, you know me, boy, where's that one? We just following instructions, you know. They say lock all you up, so we had to lock all you up. Yeah? In the meantime, to facilitate that hundreds of millions of dollars spent to create a correctional facility to house these young men. Who get all that money? Who got all that money? They're concerned about $11 million spent on a commission of inquiry that ain't start yet. And Jayanti saying what? You know why they didn't start the commission of inquiry yet? Because they know if they started, the UNC would be vindicated. Vindicated? Jayanti, we still waiting on the $789 million in missing housing. Not one of you all have addressed that issue. Since almost, 2 weeks now, that was made, that the Minister of Housing made that revelation. 2 weeks, not one person from that administration has come out to say that is untrue. That is a lie. We have documents here to show. Let us go and show you where the house is. Not one of them. Jolene sit down there. She ain't saying nothing. She was HDC managing director at the time. Not one word. But Jayanti telling you, get them bail. That is the answer. Instead of having them sitting down in remand and denying the family access. Jayanti, when they kill, right? When they kill and they take away a person's life, take away the father's life. Whereas when they're sitting in prison, no bail, their family could come and visit them and talk to them and see them. You know what? The children and the family of the man who was murdered, who they killed, don't have that opportunity. They could probably go and talk to them. If it is they were buried, they could go in the cemetery and sit down by the grave and talk. But guess what? The father can't talk back to them. Jayanti. He can't say nothing, Jayanti. But let me give you another example, Jayanti, right? If anybody here listening, she's all your friend, or you could send that to her. Let me give you all another example. Since they have the answer to crime. Let me read this one for you. Express article dated November 19, 2022, almost 1 year ago. Pennywise high suspects abscond after bail. 2 men who were expected to be charged with murder in relation to the Pennywise heist in September have absconded after posting bail on other charges, and despite searches by the police, they have not been found. According to police, the 2 suspects were held the day after the incident and subsequently charged with possession of 2 AR-15 rifles, 3 magazines, and 38 rounds of ammunition for the purpose of trafficking. Warrants in relation to murder and wounding charges were expected to be executed on them while they were still in custody at prison, having not yet posted a $3 million bail. $3 million. They were each placed on for the firearm-related offenses. So each of them, right? Each of them on $3 million bail, right? They, however, posted bail last week, Wednesday, before the execution of the warrants. Where did they get our money from? Where did they get property from to put up? 3 million bail each. The reason why the bail was so high is the belief that they can't post that. If it is that Olea could just go and you're looking to rob people and put on a heist like that, you all can't post that kind of bail. But you know what? They were charged for gun crimes, possession of illegal firearms. Now, if it is, the UNC had supported the clause, the sunset clause, that said if you're a repeat offender, or that you are found with certain guns and whatnot, you would be denied bail in the first instance bail for 120 days. So if they were denied for 120 days, having been found with these AR-15s, 3 magazines, and 38 rounds of ammunition, When the police was ready to charge them with murder, which at the time was this is November, so it was no longer non-bailable offense, because I think it was around June or something last year. They went to court and they got bail, that law overturned, right? So the police is saying, in the meantime, if they won 120 days with no bail, we would have nowhere to go and find them to proffer the charges of murder against them. But because thanks to the UNC and people like Jayanti, who refused to support the bail amendment bill, and as she mentioned before, the independent senators also disagreed and did not lend their support, you could be found with AR-15s and the like. Same type of gun that was used a couple of days ago by a man in the US to kill 18 people and wound 50 to 60 more. Yes? Automatic rifles and so on. AR-15s. They're out on bail. But they would have been in prison for at least 120 days and the police could have proffered the murder charges on them. But they get off. 3 million bail each. Who pay for that? Who pay for that? Because you know, if it is that your people put up property and so on, cash bail or whatever, a percentage, and you abscond, that money is forfeit. That property is forfeit to the state. So who has that type of collateral to put up and could risk losing it? Who? So when Jayanti talking nonsense about you put an ankle bracelet on them and they're entitled to access reasonable bail. What say? Reasonable bail. I wonder if she thinks $3 million each was reasonable. That was exorbitant. That was extreme. Jayanti. But even if Jayanti, they were charged with murder, guess what? Thanks to you and Anand, they could have applied for bail for that too. And clearly they know people with deep pockets or people who have property that can be put up for bail. So when they come outside now, Jayanti, how are they paying back that? What do you think they're going to do, Jayanti? How are they paying back that money when the state forfeit because they abscond? I have been trying, but I've seen no updates to say that the police find them. 1 year later, have they been found? Were charges proffered against them for murder? But I want to remind Jayanti, since you say denying them bail results in single-parent homes and fatherless children growing up without the support and care of a father and the direction of a father. That's any kind of father to direct children. They're better off sitting on remand. Because if that is the only example you could set for your children, that the only way to earn an income is to go and deprive other people of their hard-earned monies, they are no example. They should not be sitting in any household mentoring any child. They have no business raising any children, Jayanti. But you want them to go back out, yes, raise the next generation of thieves and the next generation of murderers. That's what Jayanti telling you. But she should be reminded, 2 people were killed in that heist, Jayanti, and none of them were the perpetrators, right? 2 people were killed in that heist. One of them, well, I'm not sure if it's both of them were fathers, but I know at least one of them was a father. He had a child, and he was expecting another one, and he didn't know. He wasn't aware that his wife was pregnant, Jayanti. So that child, who is now born, will never know his father or her father, will never know their father's touch, will never know their father's scent, Jayanti. Because these 2 men, among others who absconded on $3 million bail, had no regard for, as she mentioned earlier on in her presentation, the right to life, Jayanti. So that household is single parent, Jayanti. Thanks to who? Not thanks to the PNM, not thanks to the government, Jayanti. Fatherless, single parent. That child, when they grow up, will be able to go on Google and pull up the Pennywise heist and see videos of lying down dead in the van, Jayanti. That child will be able for years to come to read newspaper articles about how their father was gunned down. For what? Trying to do an honest day's work. An honest day's work so that he could support their sister, their brother, and their mother, Jayanti. That's what that child will have to read about. Yeah, they will hear stories from the family members about what a good provider their father was and how good he was and a nice man he was. But they will always for posterity in cyberspace, stories and videos and articles, Jayanti, about how this man was murdered, how the father was murdered, and how 2 of the men who are accused of killing the father absconded. You know why? Because they could get bail. So Jayanti, in the lead up to the last election, the last local election, what was their mantra? Load up this matic, pull it back, knock it on them, knock it again, empty the clip, reload, and empty it again. That's what she was saying. So when they come into your home to invade, do not presume. The presumption of innocence goes out the window. The same window that they came in, put presumption of innocence out that window and assume, don't presume, assume that they come to kill you. Assume they've come to do harm to you and your family. Assume that they have come to deprive you and your family of your hard-earned property. And if you have a gun, load up the matic, pull it back, knock it on them, and knock it again. Do the worst that you can. Stand your ground. Pump them full of lead, right? And they were promoting the most extreme. They weren't saying, if we will give you firearm users licenses so you could get a gun. So if somebody decides to come and invade your home, you could wound them and restrain them until the police come. They weren't saying that. They weren't saying we'll give you firearm users licenses so that you could go and learn how to shoot, to not kill, but to be able to wound them to the point where they cannot escape and you will have time to call the police and come. No, that's not what they were saying. They were saying pump them so full of lead that it has to be a closed casket funeral. Not even their mother could recognize them at the funeral. That's what they were saying. But the same Jayanti telling you today, hear what? If it is they come into your house to kill you, or to rob you, or to harm you and your family, and they love to keep saying they're coming to kill you and rape your wife and rape your daughter and all of that. That's all they could think about. She's saying that if it is when the perpetrator comes into your home, they are the quicker draw, and they kill you, and they are apprehended by the police, they must be afforded all of the courtesies of the law. They must be afforded the right to access bail. They must be afforded the opportunity to go back home to their loved ones. They must be afforded the opportunity to raise their children and nurture their children, and their households must not be single parent. The same man who was saying to light up, your leader was saying light them up. Or they're confused. You're telling me if they come inside my house, kill them dead. But then if they ain't dead, you're saying they must be able to get bail. And we must put an ankle bracelet on them and allow them to go out and live normal lives, get jobs, and be able to raise their family. And while they're waiting on this case to call, whenever it calls, knowing the state of the justice system in Trinidad and Tobago, that it could take 10, 15 years, they must be just free outside as a bird to continue to do what they're doing. This time, to make sure when they kill, they don't get caught. To make sure when they kill this time, and they make more households, single-parent households, that there is no evidence so that the police could link them to that crime, and they could continue to live as normal, while they wreak havoc and carnage across the country. That's what Janti's saying, you know. Kill them if you are the quicker draw, you kill them. But if you're not and they kill you, yes, the law must treat them well. We must not put them in prison. Let us give them bail. And reasonable bail, not extreme bail. That's what Janti is telling you. But you have David Nackett sitting next to her talking about the PNM is sympathetic to criminals. Apparently, they have a different dictionary from the rest of us. He don't understand what sympathetic means, because it seems to me the sympathetic one to the criminals is them. His colleague who keeps arguing for bail for persons accused. But they always have to come and show us the data. Show us the data. We couldn't support the bail amendment bill because the data shows that not enough people, that it's not serving as a deterrent, that it is not curbing crime, and therefore we can't support trampling on people's constitutional right to access bail. Well, Janti, show us the data that says you have a whole set of people sitting down in prison who have been accused of murder and are innocent. Show us that data, Janti. Let us see how many people that have sitting on remand today who have been charged with murder and are innocent, like Akini Charles, as you say, Jayanti. Show us. That is the data we want to see to be able to support your position. And if it is that you telling us it have so much people sitting on remand now who might be innocent, how come you and Anna not trying to get them off? Why was only Akini Charles? So you have nobody else there that you think is innocent, Jayanti, as you're trying to give us the impression? Why are you all not trying to get those others or the innocent ones who are sitting on remand? Since you're so convinced that the police could set up people and accuse them of murder, and then they end up sitting in prison for how much donkey years, and after 9 years, you come and tell them, well, you're free to go because we have no DNA and no CCTV and no evidence. So you're free to go. And 9 years of their lives would have been wasted. And he didn't learn anything and so on. As far as I know, in prison, they have opportunities for incarcerated persons to stuff for them to do, to be able to learn. I have seen artwork from persons who are in remand for donkey years, persons who have been in prison for years, doing all kind of thing. Look, this young man, Rommel, I don't know, I can't remember his last name, who was just freed of murder, right? And you think he was in the in Skinner Park this year. He was a semi-finalist. So all of these things. So when Janti want to come and talk about they are denied opportunities and so on, Janti, what about the families of the people that they harm? And the Attorney General went to great pains to say, we want to extend the sunset clause to treat specifically with persons who are repeat offenders. Repeat offenders. Persons who have 3 and 4 cases before the court for gun possession. They seem to have an affinity that they are just drawn like magnet to guns. You're on one charge, but you're going back again, you get a second charge and a third charge and a fourth charge for the same thing, gun possession. You're a menace to society. You can't seem to stay away from guns, no matter what is done. So you know what? You need to go and you need to stay inside. You need to stay inside. But Janti is saying, no, nobody deserves to stay inside. Everybody. Well, let me empty the prison. Save and except for those who are convicted, let us empty remand. Everybody who on remand, let us go and get ankle bracelets, put it on them and let them walk free. Holy God, like all yourself. Because the justice system is broken and we don't know how many years it will take for your cases to be dispensed with. So here what? Everybody on remand, come. Take an ankle bracelet, right. Hit the road. Hit the road. Because that is basically what they're saying. They have not espoused any grounds on which a person should be denied bail. So they're saying, well, okay, we think that the right to access bail should be denied to this category of persons. No, everybody, according to them, should have the right to access bail. And if you have a good lawyer, well, you're good to go. So when we have persons in this country who are on bail for murder, being found in possession of guns and ammunition, high-powered guns, and the court giving them bail again for that too. So you're on bail for murder. You're on bail for gun possession. What does that say about you? The police set you up twice, right? The police set you up 3 times. The police set you up 4 times. Yeah, you are a good boy. No, you are a good boy. But they always like to come and talk about the RIPNM good boy. I sure the mother will come and say he was a good boy, yeah? But as far as Giant is concerned, all of them is good boys. None of them guilty. They must be afforded the presumption of innocence, no matter how even if in the face of incontrovertible evidence. So if you have a camera home and they come and invade your house and we have video footage showing where they kill you, Giant is saying you must still be entitled to access bail. No exceptions. You mustn't say, well, hey, but look, we have the evidence that the man. That's okay. Let the judge decide. Let the magistrate decide if they're going to deny them bail or not. But we are still going to represent them and make a strong case for them to go out and ask the court to please show leniency. Never mind the fact that they showed no leniency to this homeowner who was just doing a normal thing, probably in the yard, looking to lock up the dog or whatever it is, or feeding the dog, and they decide to come in the people's place and kill them. The auntie say, no, they're entitled to access bail. So they could go back outside and all of a sudden, because they get bail, they will turn their life around. As soon as they walk out the prison gate, Jesus will appear to them like he did on the road and with the Apostle Paul on the road to Damascus, and they will change their lives. And all of a sudden, they will become apostles. Yeah? Disciples, they will go and preach the gospel. They will turn their life around in that moment. That's Giant Lutfi. They were talking about the PNM like to say that we didn't want to support the bail amendment bill. But you also merited it in 2012. You also merited it in 2013. And Giant, it made sense then to treat with crime then, because when it is that you all were faced with a situation where crime was spiraling out of control, you needed to do something drastic in order to peg it back, to borrow Gary's terminology. But you realize if we give the PNM that ammunition, it could probably peg back the spate of murders and crime in the country. And we don't want that. We need every year to come and quote statistics and say the PNM breaking record that every time the PNM in power, murders goes up, crime goes up. And we cannot allow them to put anything in place that could pull that back. But we will express concern, We're concerned about the state of crime in the country. Murders. Look at what's happening in this country, Trinidad, Tobago, this and that. She's talking about travel advisory. I know the Minister of Tourism should have spoken about the travel advisories against Trinidad and Tobago, where persons are being encouraged or discouraged from traveling to Trinidad and Tobago by the State Department and so on. Over 500 mass shootings in the United States for the year. You feel Janty afraid to jump on a plane and go to the US? You feel that deterred Kamala Persad-Bissessar from hopping on a plane and going to Florida the other day? No, she was only too happy to go. Any travel advisory? Anything warning persons be careful in going to the United States, that it is possible you might end up the victim of a mass shooting. There is no place that is safe. No place. We can't tell you, well, just don't go to malls or don't go to the grocery. Because anyway, you could be in your driveway, you're in the school, you're in an open air concert, you're in the park, you're in church, nowhere is safe from a mass shooter. Every one of these places and institutions has been touched by a mass shooter. So, where is the travel advisory? But she's proud to come in the Senate and talk about, look at the state of crime in this country, and you have to warn people, don't come here. She wanted anybody to go to the US? Has she decided that she's going to take her passport and cut out her visa? She don't want to use that again? Any word on that? No. Yes. Happy, leave, go. Leave Trinidad. Go to the US where things better. Yeah, go to the US where things better. Right? And talking about people who looking to get jobs to go to Guyana. And if you see much people was lined up outside C3, over 1,000 of them, and was waiting because they're looking for work, they want to leave Trinidad for betterment. And we should be ashamed that people want to leave this country. So nobody wasn't leaving Trinidad and Tobago between 2010 to 2015 to look for betterment, Jayanti. What about Vernon Dilemma, Jayanti? When last you talked to him? You ask him why he left Trinidad? The fact that he and his wife were victims of a home invasion and were supposed to be killed. The perpetrators told them that, you're going and dead tonight. Make peace with your maker because you're going and meet him soon. Right? So make sure he's prepared to receive you. We're given all the opportunity. Make peace with him now because you're going and see him just now, and we want to make sure when you reach, you're welcomed at the pearly gates. That is what they told them, Jayanti. So Vernon Dilemma is no longer in Trinidad and Tobago, not because of anything that happened to him while Keith Rowley was Prime Minister. It's because of what happened to him while Kamala Persad-Bissessar was Prime Minister. That notwithstanding the lengths that he went to get her into power, she couldn't protect him and his wife. That they could have been statistics. His wife subsequently died. She wasn't as fortunate. Yeah? Probably never recovered from that ordeal. Jayanti. Where were you then? To call on the Minister of National Security to go. Where were you then, Jayanti? Where were you then? But you want to come and talk now about intellectual laziness because all you have the solution to crime. You're quoting police officers talking about single parent home, but the same police officers complaining now, Jayanti, that thanks to you and Anand and your parliamentary colleagues, that as soon as they arrest people for one crime, within days they have to now go and investigate another crime committed by the same person or persons, Jayanti. Because when these persons should be sitting behind bars on remand, instead they're out on the streets, Jayanti, not looking for legitimate work, not looking for honest work, Jayanti. They're looking for quick money. And the quickest way to get money is to commit crime, Jayanti. Because they wouldn't change overnight. They weren't a criminal. It's not a situation where you're a hardened criminal last week, you get locked up this week, and then next week you turn your life around, Jayanti. No. That is why this individual who would have held up the matriarch and patriarch of Persad the Food King, Jayanti, 14 years in prison, didn't convert him. He learned nothing for the 14 years that he was there. Such that when he came back out, the only thing he knew was a life of crime, and that is exactly what he went back to. Only this time, he was a little more seasoned because he would have been exposed while he was in prison to other persons who are inclined towards a life of crime, who would have shared things with him. So now he came out schooled. You say they don't learn nothing in the prison? He learned a lot. because they said he was the mastermind behind that heist. He was the mastermind. So he did learn while he was incarcerated. And persons such as that should not have been. The only good thing that came out of that gianty was that he's no longer in the land of the living. So there's no opportunity for him to be a menace to society again, having engaged the police, so it was said, in an exchange of gunfire. And well, the police were the quicker and the better draw, and today he's pushing up daisies. So he is no longer an issue for the police. That is one less menace that they have to deal with. One less person out on bail that they have to worry about as a suspect for crimes, thanks to your efforts and the efforts of the United National Congress. Well, they're not helping the country. And that is perhaps the downside of having so many lawyers in the UNC, because you're only seeing the dollar sign. Every client is a dollar sign. Every time they have to go to court is a dollar sign. Every time you have to make an appearance on their behalf is a paycheck in your pocket, is money in the bank. So crime is a business for you. Despite your concern, because if crime abates, then that is not good for you. That's not good for you. The less criminals that have in the country is the less work you will have. Is the less money you could make to buy the big house and drive the fancy car and take exotic trips. So you all are actually beneficiaries of crime in this country. And when you look at who are the attorneys representing these persons, it's the same ones, all of them. The same names popping up. And there's only one camp they come in from. Because when I see these criminals are paying in court, I don't see Gilbert Peterson representing them. I don't see Douglas Mendez representing them. I don't see Keith Scotland representing them. Right? The usual suspects, the usual names you see representing them. The go-to. Who's the go-to? Yeah? You're a criminal and you want to get off, you know who to call. You have to call Anand. Anand go deal with that favor. Call Gerald Ramdeen. Them men, real good. That's who you have to call. Gilbert Peterson, nah, who is he? They ain't hear about them. Go in, if you do a census in remand, anybody here ever heard of Gilbert Peterson? Who? Anybody in here ever heard of Douglas Mendez? Nah, who is he? Anybody in here ever heard of Pamela Elder? Nah, who is she? Anybody in here know Anand Ramlogan? Yeah, me. Anybody in here know Gerald Ramdeen? Anybody here know Kyle Taklal Singh? Anybody know Jayanti Lakshmi Diyal? But PNM is the problem. Yeah, PNM is the problem with the crime situation in the country today. Yeah, but let me just check who are the lawyers representing these persons. The 9 persons who are accused of murdering Vindra Naipal Kulman who got off, after the state hired 3 special prosecutors, Dina Sitahal, Israel Khan, and Gilbert Peterson, to prosecute. They got off. Today, the man who said jail make the right fig, who was the Attorney General while they were incarcerated and while the case was going on, today he is representing them, all 9. He didn't say, well, I'm a Sherry Lieutenant. He didn't say, well, I will take 2, and Judge, you could take 2, and this one. No, he represented all 9. And won $3.5 million each. Want the state to pay $3.5 million each in compensation to all of them. What percentage he getting? What percentage? So it's not 9 of them looking to get money off the state, it's 10. He included. What is his fee? 10%? 15%? 25%? How much of that 30-something million that he's trying to get? For them. For these 9 men going in his bank account. How much? How much is enough for these people? When it is that Vincent Nelson could tell us that Gerald Ramdeen told him, right? Told him that Ram Logan have so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. So much money that he could build a whole wing in his house, and if he didn't like how it looked, he mash it down and build it over. Because he have so much money. How much more you want? How much more houses you gonna buy? You don't know, you didn't give yourself like a day or tomorrow you could fall long dead. Where all that going? Where it going to? Right? Up to now, look how long the DPP dismissed the charges against them. Are still waiting for he and Gerald to sue the state for malicious prosecution. Wrongful arrest. The same thing that he's suing the state for the 9 men with Vindra Kulman. How come he ain't sued the state for himself yet? Since he innocent. Since he innocent, what he and Ramdeen waiting on them as the best lawyers that have in this country according to Campbell and them? And up to now, not a lawsuit, not a press conference, nothing. but they're innocent. That's what the supporters and members of that party telling you, they're innocent. Yeah, they may do nothing. The PNM set up that. The PNM set up that, and them know how to, them love money bad, and up to now they ain't sue. Ask any one of the UNC supporters, how come they ain't sue yet? That's what they was singing all the time. Well, them boys, you will see. But as soon as it was announced that the DPP dropped the charges, well, look how taxpayers going to have to pay money now. They're going to sue the state for big money. There's about a year or more that happened. What are they waiting on? Christmas? Election? How come they ain't sue yet? Anybody here who's a supporter of the UNC, let's tell me now. How they ain't sue yet? What are they waiting on? So, everything that Nelson say or let's say was a lie. Nelson didn't get no kickback. Okay, so why didn't sue Nelson? Why didn't sue Nelson for defamation? Why didn't sue Nelson for libel? What are they waiting on to sue him? Them is the best lawyers. Yeah, but all those study them thing. But they're innocent. And they're innocent. But had it been you and PNM lawyers, we would not hear the end of that. Today, all they're talking about, we ain't talking about the 789 million. We're not interested in that. We're only concerned about the 11 million for the Commission of Inquiry. We're so concerned about the expenditure of 11, but 789 is a small thing. Trinidad and Tobago is a 9-day wonder. The media ain't following up on that, so we gonna forget about that. Yeah? How many of these media houses talking about that? Keeping that on the front burner. Small thing. But today, we still here since 2017. Up to now, we still hearing about AV drilling and AV drilling. All in the comments. We want to know about AV drilling and AV drilling. All you want to know about the 123 million Eden Gardens. All you don't care about that. You don't care about 789 million in fake house. All you don't care about that neither. You only care about the 100 million for AV drilling. But that is the government in waiting. Yeah? That's the alternative government, the Prime Minister. Alternative Prime Minister, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, who is missing in action, cannot be found. We can only hope that she might surface one of these good days, because people are starting to forget what she looked like. Melka is saying they're waiting for Vincent Nelson today. I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I just ask him, all that money they have, I see, not yesterday. Yes, yesterday, I went down to town and I saw Mr. Ramdeem. Now he's driving a Prado. Before it was Range Rover autobiography. So so he changed vehicles now. So you have a Prado, a brand new Prado. If you see it, pimp out, looking nice. How that pay for? Huh? When I say here, you hear Ramdeem name calling a big case. No more briefs. You ain't got no brief in the last 7-8 years. So I wonder if he's still spending money from what they got under 2010 to 2015? I just asking the question. Just asking that simple question. Right? But Janti say, get them bail. They kill you, hard luck. So make sure, when they come for you, they come to invade your home and you have a gun, make sure you are quicker draw. Yeah? So you better go down to the range every other day and practice. Because if they kill you first, Janti say they must get bail. Janti say they must be allowed to go back out and live nice, normal, and take care of the children and take care of their wife. Yeah? So they ain't gonna get home. So she had to go and look for a next man because the main man in prison. Okay? Yes. The woman have needs. So don't be denying her husband or her man bail because she have needs that only he's supposed to satisfy. So to hell with you and your family who dead. They must be able to access bail. Regardless of the crime. Regardless of how heinous. So if they come and they kill your whole family, 5 of you living in the house and they shoot all 5 of you, Jayanti say they must be able to access bail. They have a right to access bail. And this wicked and evil PNM that trying to deny these people the right to access bail, that they're too intellectually lazy and can think of no other way to stem the tide of crime other than to ensure that these bastards remain behind bars for as long as possible. And give the police enough time to be able to investigate and find sufficient evidence. But I would remind Jayanti, it is not the government that makes the decision or advises the police to charge it, it's the DPP. So when the file goes to the DPP and it is reviewed, and the DPP is satisfied based on the evidence provided that he could win this case, it is then and only then that he will give instructions to charge. If he is not satisfied, if he's of the view that the evidence is weak, circumstantial at best, and if this matter goes to trial, he's going to lose, he's not going to instruct the police, go back and do some more work. Go back and do a little more investigation. Find me something stronger so that I show that when this reaches the court, that my officers, my attorneys don't end up looking like a fool. I want something strong to take to the court. So when you want to come and talk about they're innocent, it is because things happen along the way. It takes too long in this country for these matters to come to be dealt with. And we must not discount the role that these attorneys play in dragging out these matters. I've mentioned it before that when attorneys want to be representing for 10 and 12 people, if a trial is going on and you're representing 2 and 3 and 4 people, all of them trial going on at the same time, how are you doing that? How are you doing that? You can't be in 4 places at one time, in 4 courtrooms at one time. So obviously other matters will have to be adjourned and put off and all of that. And in the meantime, you're dragging up. It's not to say, well, all right, you say, well, no more crime to be committed for the next month or 2 because we have enough persons to deal with. So let us get a portion of this off of the docket, and then, okay, you all can start back committing crimes now because we need resume. It don't work so. It doesn't work so. But all I want is you must, Ram Logan represented 9. 9 of them he represented. And other cases that he have everything. But they're so greedy and I don't know, money is their God. They could never get enough. And meantime, you're retarding the justice system in the country. They were there for 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. They had a ministry of justice, a whole extra ministry, a minister of justice. What did they do? What did that ministry do to improve the judicial system in this country? What did that do to improve the wheels of justice in this country, the rate at which it turns? That they promised and put them back in 2025 and they will bring back this ministry of justice. What will it do? What did it do? And what will it do if it comes back? Other than pay an additional person 41,000 plus perks every month, allow them to be able to buy brand new car, expensive car, and not pay any motor vehicle tax, any VAT, and anything else, so they could ride high and be called honorable, right? So they can have a nice office with oak furniture when they go to work in the morning, when they choose to go to work, whenever they reach, and rock back in a nice big leather chair and sit down and overlook and watch the water taxi comes in, or watch the ferry going out, yeah? And show up in cabinet and have diplomatic passports, so when they travel and they reach the airport and they show the orange passport, yes, go through, sir, go through, ma'am, go ahead. You have diplomatic clearance. That's what they like. But what did the Ministry of Justice do? Did it improve? Did the justice system in this country improve between 2010 to 2015? No, it didn't. But you know what I tell you? 5 years wasn't enough. That's what Carson Charles coming to talk. 5 years is not enough. What you could do in 5 years? But all they promise a whole list of things to do in 5 years. You all didn't say in your manifesto, well, this will take 10 years to do. But this will take 5 years. No, well, they said, this is our manifesto for 2015 to 2020. Or this was our manifesto 2010 to 2015, and this is what we're going to do. Everything in this document is what we're going to do. That's what they said. So don't come now to say, well, you couldn't do all of that in 5 years. Then you're misrepresented. You're misrepresented. But and that's the problem. Their supporters are the loudest when it comes to complaining about the state of crime in the country, which is bad. But you all are not holding your parliamentarians responsible for the contributions that they are making, whether it is they representing the criminals, whether it is that they go in and petition in the court to overturn laws that are supposed to restrain criminals. They keep doing things that is inimical to the well-being of the citizens of this country. And you all are not holding them to book for that. But what Hines must go, and Rowley must go. You feel if Hines go and Rowley go, murderers will still be able to get bail. They will still have access to bail. And it appears that Jayanti and others, they seem to be hell-bent that they are going to defend that right to access bail to the hilt. Nobody must deprive anybody of the right to access bail, regardless of how heinous the crime is. They don't care. They don't care. So I want to know how Jayanti's neighbors feel every time they read in the newspapers a murderer, someone who was accused of murder, got bail. How do they feel? And if, perchance, the persons who killed their loved one ever is found and brought to justice and get off on bail, if they will have a party for Jayanti and congratulate her on a job well done. So all the supporters who lamenting crime now I hope if it is, God forbid, any of you end up being victims of crime, or any of your family members are murdered, and the police finds the perpetrators, and they get off on bail, well, they must come on the news and say, well done, Gianti. So we are happy to hear that the police have caught the persons who killed our loved one, and that this person was able to receive bail 2 days later, and they are back out on the streets, free to do whatever it is that they were doing. That while they are free to go home and love up their children, and love up their wife, and enjoy that life, family life, that we have to live with the hurt that our loved one is either ashes or in a hole 6 feet in the ground, never to be seen or heard from again on this plane. You all must go and congratulate Anand for that, and congratulate Janti for that, and tell them, job well done. Don't complain. Don't complain. Because they have your support is why they're doing that. But I want to remind Janti and them that when you all go into parliament, right, you don't speak for yourself. You are not there to represent yourself. Jayanti does not represent Jayanti Lakshmi Diyal. Your opinions and what you espouse in the parliament is supposed to be representative of the people who put you there. Well, Kamala put you there. But the people who put Kamala where she is, I am sure many of them are not pleased that you and Anand caused murder to be a bailable offense. I'm very sure they're not pleased about that, but they wouldn't voice that discontent. They wouldn't voice it. You know why? Because we must be seen to be united, and we supported anything the party does. And we will make ridiculous excuses for it. As foolish as it is, we'll make ridiculous excuses for it. Why? Because that's we party. But if it was the PNM do it, we wouldn't hear the end of it. Anyway, let me play Mr. Imbute. Let me get Mr. Imbute. So in winding up the debate in the Senate last week, let me get this one. Where is this? Right. Let me see here. Mr. Imbut would have, to me, put things into perspective with respect to where the country was when they came into office. Just let me get this here. 7, 10. Bear with me. Let me just pull this up here. I had it saved and okay, 7. Right.
Mr. President, how much more time do I have? Finish at 5:19. 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes.
Just now, let me just let this thing connect. So just bear with me, folks. Right.
Issue all of us have, because we all know the disappointment when the child does not make it to their first choice or their second choice or their third choice. You see the disappointment on the child and disappointment on the parents. And it's really something that we need. We need to deal with that problem, but time does not permit us to have a full-fledged debate on that. Senator Remy, I just want to repeat what I said is, I said to you privately, I'll repeat it publicly now. All we do in the Ministry of Finance is we give Tobago a lump sum. When we do the national budget, like for example, this year, we finally settled on about $59 billion.
Minister, my apologies, you have till 5:24.
Okay, great. Thank you. When we finally settled on the total amount for the budget, because it's not an easy job. When we came into office in 2015, the annual expenditure was $60 billion, somewhere around there. The national income was $35 billion. So you had a $60 billion expectation from the population and a $35 billion revenue stream. It was unsustainable. One of the first things we had to do is reduce it. So we cut it from 60 to 50. But that created all sorts of issues, because it created arrears piling up to contractors in the 31, because the money just wasn't there. So you take $10 billion out of government expenditure, you're going to owe somebody some money. And one of the things we've been doing over the last 2 years or so is trying to clear off all of those unbilled bills that have been festering there for so long. But we had to cut out that 10 billion. And even when we cut it out from 60 to 50, even when we cut it out, we still didn't have enough money. We still ran a deficit budget, because what had happened when the former administration took over in 2010 annual expenditure was 45 billion. It grew from 45, it hit a high of 62 billion in 2014 and was at the $60 billion level in 2015. But the revenue never grew to meet the expenditure. So we became a population accustomed to expenditure of $60 billion. We had champagne, taste, and Moby Pocket. It was as simple as that. So one of the things we had to do was to cut back. But you can't keep cutting forever because you reach a point where you stifle the economy and the economy goes into a tailspin. And this is one of the reasons why we've been running deficit budgets for the last 8 years, because we have never subscribed to the theory. You will hear it espoused by some of the go-to commentators in the newspapers and the media. They had a theory: cut your budget to suit your income. There's one of them who writes in the papers every week, and that was his solution. You're earning 35 billion, cut your expenditure to $35 billion and balance your budget. That's the Jamaica solution. That's why Jamaica's GDP is 1/3 per capita, is 1/3 of Trinidad and Tobago. That is when you're an IMF program, that's what they tell you to do. That's what the IMF says. Post a fiscal surplus. So Jamaica has had to post a fiscal surplus for the last 43 years. They've been an IMF program. When you post a fiscal surplus, what happens? No subsidies, no transfers. Everybody has to pay the real cost of commodities, or even more, because it's taxed. Like Barbados, for example, taxes fuel. They put a tax on fuel. It's not, they don't just make their population pay the actual cost of fuel. They put a tax on it as a revenue earner. So when we got that advice, cut your expenditure down to 35 billion, we said, no way, we're not doing that. So you have to massage this thing. You can't cut it down too low because the economy will collapse. You can't bring it up too high because your debt to GDP ratio will go out of whack. You get downgraded. You can't borrow money anymore. You can't finance anything. So it's very difficult. But we eventually arrived at 59 billion. And we said we could manage that. And we're predicting a deficit of about 5 billion with revenue of 54. And we said we can handle that. We have enough spare capacity. Our debt to GDP ratio is 70%. It's within our soft target of 75%. Our reserves are adequate. We have growth, significant growth in the non-oil sector and so on. We could manage a deficit of 5 billion in order to propel the productive sector in the economy, because that's what you're spending the money on. You're spending $6 billion on your development program to propel the productive sector of your economy. So 59 billion, we say, all right, Tobago gets 4.3% of that. That's all that happens. They decide how to allocate it. I think the confusion arose when you may have seen me, Senator Remy, answering on behalf of the THA. I was just repeating like a parrot. I was asked a question. I turned to the officials from Tobago. I said, what's the answer to that question? They tell me the answer and I just repeat it. I don't defend. So we do give them the lump sum and they do whatever they want with it. And we have been giving Tobago, THA, more than UNC ever gave them in that 5 years that they were in government, Mr. President. So let me move on now. I think I've covered all the senators. I think Senator Timol, I think I've given you my views already privately, so we'll leave it there. I just want to talk about about property tax. One thing I want to say. There is a section in the Property Tax Act.
Right. So I just wanted to play that little short clip there from the minister where he spoke about what they meant when they came in. That prior to the People's Partnership coming in 2010, government's annual expenditure was 45 billion, in that range. Between 2010 to 2015, it went from 45 billion to 62, right? Average 60 between 2010 to 2020 to 2015. And therefore, that is why when you hear supporters of that party talking about things was better under Kamla and things was better under the People's Partnership and now it's hardship and so on. You know why? Because this government, when they came in, as the minister said, what the IMF tell them to do? Cut your expenditure to suit your revenue. So you're only earning 35 billion, only spend 35 billion. Or if you could spend 34 and post a surplus of $1 billion, do that. You can imagine if the minister had taken that prescription to say the government only going to spend $35 billion, what would have happened? So the reason why, when they say this government and this and that, because the UNC realized that they could try and bribe the population. And we're going to spend 60 billion and 62 billion. The population not concerned in the least about where the money coming from. The population don't want to know, well, how much money the government making and they're spending and they posting, but because for the 5 years that they were in office, it was budget deficits. They were spending more than they were earning every single year. But nobody, all who complaining now about under Rowley and think hard and whatnot and under Kamala, it was better. None of them is asking, where was the extra money coming from? How is it that they were able to spend so much more than any other administration in this country's history? Because prior to 2010, 45 billion under Patrick Manning, with average budgets of between 43 to 45 billion while Mr. Manning was Prime Minister. We get Napa, we get SAPA, we get Brian Lara Stadium, the Prime Minister's residence and diplomatic center. We got schools, road paved, thousands of houses built, all them things, government campus, waterfront, all of that built, $45 billion budget. Yeah? All them things we get to know. 2010 to 2015, budget between 60 to 62 billion. What we get? Where is the UNC equivalent of any of those things that Mr. Manning built? Where is it? Everything that they built, all the major infrastructural projects that they want to boast about was financed through loans from the Chinese. The Cuba Children's Hospital, the Aquatic Center, the Cycling Velodrome, the Racket Center in Tacarigua, all of these things. The only thing that they didn't fund by taking loans was the portion of the Point 14 highway that they built. Whether they're saying is Carson Charles saying was 61% is what completed, and he was so proud he was given this opportunity and so on. They took $7 billion from the treasury to pay that. Unheard of. But everything else was paid for with debt, which this administration today has to be paying interest on. Some of these loans the payments only started after 2015. But they have not built a fraction of what Mr. Manning built. They love to talk about how much schools they built, and this administration have left the schools to languish and they refuse to open it. As if that didn't happen under them. 5 Rivers and the schools on the East-West corridor, Mount Hope Juniors, Mount Hope Secondary, 5 Rivers, what was previously Curep Junior Sec, and it's now St. Joseph Secondary or something so. Those 3 schools that Mr. Manning built, among others, they left it, never opened it. I will never forget when it is that Tim Gopi Singh made the comment, Manning didn't build school, he built a hotel. When you see the size of these schools that Mr. Manning built, this hotel he built, that wasn't school. Tim Gopi Singh said that as the Minister of Education. Today, what should have been St. Joseph Secondary, the brand new school, is a shell. And why they didn't open it? Because they tell us was something with the air condition and whatnot. So a simple air conditioning problem resulting in you choosing to abandon that school, never opening it. Why? Probably because it's on the East-West corridor. And the East-West corridor don't traditionally support the UNC. So all they couldn't get 2 votes about PNM constituencies. And all they want to vote for PNM, well, no problem. You all will be treated accordingly. So Mount Hope, 5 Rivers, and Curep, St. Joseph, leave it so. So no need to open it. But the supporters wouldn't talk about that. They wouldn't talk about we built 106 schools. What about the schools all they didn't open? But all they know, every single school that Kamala built and Gopi Singh built, that Keith Rowley and Mbute open, all they know, you could rattle it off by rote. But ask them which schools that Mr. Manning built that the PP didn't open. They don't know. It's true. That is so. That happened. I didn't know that. All they don't know about that. No. All of the housing developments that I keep talking about that were almost complete, that people should have been allocated since 2010 and could have been building equity in their household by paying mortgages instead of rent. For 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they left these housing developments abandoned. Poyo Court in Malabar, I keep talking about Beaufort in St. James, Real Spring in Balsane, all of these different housing developments that they abandoned, almost complete. Did nothing. You know why? Because you probably figure that is in PNM constituency. What's the point finishing housing in PNM constituency for? And they only vote in PNM? Well, leave it so. Leave it so. But Keith Rowley and his administration, vindictive and wicked and evil. The only reason why they didn't want to open this school is because Kamla built it. It's because Kamla built it. The same Kamla that decided to build a set of fire station, but you ain't buy no fire tender for it. All over the place, you're boasting, we built fire station here in Mayaro and here, there, and everywhere. Did you buy equipment for it? But you're quick to open. Just before the election, you want to come and cut ribbon and unveil plaque because you don't want Rowley name on it. Your name must be on it. Even if it is, you'll lose the election, Rowley name mustn't be on it. Going up in Mayaro, right? To open the Mayaro fire station, by the time they leave, it was the Mayo fire station because they took duct tape to stick up the letters. The building ain't ready yet, not ready. But it had to open. It had to open before the election. Because, right, we built that. And Kamla's name must be on that for posterity. But as soon as you leave, she's lucky when she was cutting ribbon that one of the letters didn't fall and hit on her head. Duct tape. Afterwards, pictures showing. They ain't talking about that. Yeah, so you put your building, fine. Where is the equipment for it? Did you order any fire tenders? Because if you ordered it, then even though you lost the election, the fire tenders would still have come and would have been in the fire stations now. So where the fire tenders that you all ordered for all of these fire stations? Where it? There's none to be had because you didn't order none. And then this administration comes in now and has to deal with all of the backlog of debts that you are left behind. They had to find money to pay back pay. For the 13, how much percent it is, the 14% or whatever they give for 2013, this administration had to find the money to pay it. With reduced oil prices and reduced gas prices, with far less revenue than they enjoyed for the 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days that they were there. And is the IMF telling this administration, you need to cut your cloth to suit. Cut your expenditure. So all you won't get licks. Either that or face the possibility of being downgraded. What are they to do? So they try to maintain $50 billion. But with all of the things that were put in place, when you have a chunk of that had to be going to paying debt that was incurred by that administration, monies that should be going towards helping the citizens, you using that to pay interest on loans that they took. Yeah? But they ain't talking that talk at all. So the government should have continued to spend 60 billion and 62 billion and do like what they did. Take the exchequer account from 10 billion in overdraft to 32 and 33 billion in overdraft. You know what interest, that extra 23 billion? Again, I make the point. Manning built Sapa, he built Napa, he built Waterfront, Government Campus, Chancery Lane Campus that she turned into a hospital. All them things Mr. Manning built, right? Manning paved road too, build school, build house, all of that. Never took the exchequer account to 33 billion in overdraft, the highest it has ever been in this country's history. Williams didn't do that. Chambers didn't do that. Robinson didn't do that. Manning didn't do that. Pandey didn't do that. Manning didn't do that. Who did it? Kamla Prasad Bisesa and her government did it. From 10 billion, they came in. And if it is Mr. Manning, when you look at the rate of expenditure from October 2009 up until the time that the PNM demitted office in May of 2010, we were heading in the right direction. So at the end of 2009, right, it was about just over $10 billion. But the expenditure patterns for the following year was such that we were coming out of it. So it was going from 10 billion, going on, it was projected, if the expenditure rate had continued, probably we might have ended up at about maybe $6.57 billion in overdraft as at the end of 2010. The financial year 2010, if Patrick Manning was still the Prime Minister. Before that, it was averaging around 5 billion, 4 point something, 5 billion. How the hell it reached to 33 billion in the space of 5 years? And they built nothing close to what Manning built. Nothing close to what Manning built. But it reached 33 billion. And the supporters not concerned about that. That year they were spending 60 billion, but where the extra money was coming from? They incurred debt here, there, and everywhere. Raping this government agency and that one. So they take $16 billion from NGC. They take now here and they take money from NLCD. Who else they took money from? This one, that one. It's only the Heritage and Stabilization Fund was the last thing they didn't read. To be able to fund that type of expenditure. That was unsustainable, to use Coleman Bird's word. Unsustainable. The state simply could not afford to continue to be spending 60-something billion and incurring billions of dollars in debt. running deficit budgets by borrowing money, selling state assets. So they sell shares in FCB to get money, right? So their friends, family, and financiers was buying up FCB shares, and as soon as the price shoot up, they went and sell it and made millions, tens of millions of dollars in profit. But that's how they were making money. What we could sell? We will sell assets here and sell assets there. We will put this and that and whatnot and stuff to get money to fund this expenditure. And meanwhile, the citizens happy. Yeah, oil, fuel prices low. How much is the subsidy? 4 billion, 5 billion? No, we don't care about that. That's the government problem. Let them fix that. Let them deal with that. Let them find the money for that. We care. We happy. Think nice. But what about when the chickens come home to roost later on down the road? When it is the government is billions of dollars in debt and can't fix it. So the exchequer account is now in permanent overdraft. So in the space of 8 years, under Keith Rowley, it went up by an additional 8 billion. Only 8. From 33, so it oscillating around 40, 41, thereabouts. So the PNM added an additional 8 billion in 8 years. But in 5, UNC added 23. 23 in 5 versus 8 in 8. But this government irresponsible. Yeah, this is an irresponsible government and they mismanaging the economy. And the economy on the brink of collapse. Because Rowley and them, they know what they're doing and they can't handle it. Let me say good afternoon to Daniel Knight. I saw Daniel posted a story on Facebook where Ostal, who built the Cape Club, which built one of the ferries, the new ferries and the Cape class vessels for the Coast Guard. They actually built a facility in Trinidad and Tobago to service the vessels. Ostal spent their money to build a facility in Trinidad to service. You all saw that anywhere in the media? Was that carried in the evening news? You saw it on the front page of the newspaper? No, you didn't see it. But the UNC talking about no foreign direct investment. They invest in nothing. Nobody want to come and invest in Trinidad, but Ostal take the money and come here and invest in that. So they had to hire workers. So money had to be spent. Persons were hired when the construction was taking place. And after, of course, they could probably hire some locals to train them and all of these different things. All of these different things. But that is not thing to talk about. So somebody here is talking about the hospital that was opened without equipment and staff. Quick to run and cut ribbon because Kamla's name must be on the plaque. Rowley's name must be nowhere on anything that Kamla built. Right? Built. Now they're complaining about the campus, the UE campus in DB. As if I saw it's a prominent story. I don't know if it's in today's newspapers. As if Guardian doesn't know that just a couple months ago, back in July, Rosemary Belantoine, the principal of UE, mentioned that they were going to turn that facility into a school of medical sciences. She said that is now that facility is now under the control of UE. It is for UE to decide how they're going to use it. But as we know, the financial struggles that UE has been dealing with, for the however long, that probably is hindering them now from being able to operationalize the facility. But you hear Kamla Prasad-Bissessar saying that put them back in office and they will use it as some school, some academy to train the police and all kind of thing. That's what they want to use it for. Just a building because they find everything happening in the north and in the west, so we need a building in south and central. So when I hear Anil Roberts and his contribution in the Senate talking about why they built the aquatic center, the cycling velodrome in Cuba, it's so that businesses would have come and set up shop in Cuba when they see 10,000 children every month coming to use these swimming pools and coming to use the cycling velodrome and all of these things, and businesses will come and set up shop and open other businesses in Cuba. Not for the rest of the country, in Cuba, when they see maxi load and bus load of children come in here every week and every month, businesses will say, well, yeah, but that's the place for us to go and set up shop. So let us develop UNC constituencies, economic-wise. Let us build business. So that's why Fahid beating his chest now and talking about how much business is opening in Central, how much business is opening in Chaguanas. But always washing them out on PNM constituencies. Nothing good to say, but only one they vote. Yeah? Nothing good to say. You heard Janti just now. Yeah, PNM constituency. All the crime taking place in PNM constituency, all the criminals is from PNM constituency. But every time you read in the newspapers, white collar crime, fraud, somebody defraud somebody of money to bring in cars or something in licensing with cars being transferred illegally and without the knowledge of the owner and all of these things. Look and see who are the ones engaged in that and see where they're from. Not PNM constituencies. 7701763. Put this thing on. I don't. Chanty and them is a waste of time. A waste of time. I see Douglas politics will be back on tonight. Lord Father help us. As if doubles and coffee wasn't bad enough. As if doubles and coffee wasn't bad enough, now he coming back with his Douglas politics. Well, I hope the first person he interviewed tonight is his leader. Maybe we could, set up anyway. Verlene says all those businesses they're opening is to wash money. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Jenny.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Hi.
All the corners and those sort of things on WhatsApp and let me want to roll further and be forward. Tony, on Facebook and on YouTube, listening to facts of stubborn things. Dominic, I want to ask Jayanti one thing. I want to ask if she is a victim of physical abuse. Because those things are crimes and you don't want no woman or no man or anybody to be living under those conditions.
Yes.
Or with somebody who is doing those things. So I want to ask her that. And if it is true, she needs to get herself checked right. With regards to cannabis service assessor, I am not a medical doctor. I don't profess to be one, but I'm of the firm belief that Mrs. Professor may have suffered is true. Because when I looked at some things that Ms. Single would have said since back in 2012, she spoke about cannabis abuse after being a diabetic and suffers from hypertension. Now, if you have always been hearing about cannabis abuse and not drinking, I hear about smoking, and you continue in that, it is obviously natural conclusion with years and years after is that you may really suffer a stroke or you may really lose some limbs if you're not taking care of yourself. So they can hide her as much as they want and have her sitting on just straight down on the ground proper. They could do what they want, but sooner or later they will have to come out and say something. That has to come.
Yes.
I just want to say something about that situation with the permanent secretary that would have told the Minister of Finance via some correspondent that the workers who unions would have settled for the 4% will not get the back pay until May next year. I'm not going to beat up on the public. I'm not going to beat up on the permanent secretary because I know some of the challenges they go through. I know the challenges that public office also has while doing their duty. Sometimes they do not have the right tools and equipment for them to carry the job, or they're not in a space conducive for productivity. However, at the end of the day, the permanent secretary is the accounting officer and is in charge of the ministry. The minister works with the permanent secretary that whatever government policy that the government has, that it has to be implemented into the ministry. The permanent secretary makes sure that happens while it is adhering to the laws or the rules and regulations and different acts that govern different parts of the public service. So I'm coming to this. People are saying that public officers ain't getting the back pay and they're laughing. Public service is made up of different sections. For instance, the public servants who are in the public service are guided by the Civil Service Act. Then you have the public servants who are the police officers, they are guided by the Police Service Act and the Fire Service Act and the Prison Service Act and the Teachers Act. They are all public officers but work under different terms and conditions than those in the civil service. So PSA is the union that represents the public officers who work under the Civil Service Act and the statutory bodies and all that. PSA did not settle for the 4%. So public officers who are guided by those acts are not entitled to get no back pay. The other persons I would have called, they are the ones who are entitled to the back pay. Some of them have already started to get the back pay. Example, Amalgamated, who would have negotiated on behalf of the Port of Spain City Corporation for daily rated officers, who also had ministry, I think falls under local government, have a permanent secretary. Those monies were paid, the retirees got their money. People from police, some of them have gotten some of the increase in salary has started. I know Coast Guard, some of them have got the back pay and so on and so on. But it is ironic that out of the 20-something ministries that we have in this country, that only one permanent secretary has come out and said that they can't do it. I think the medium that the permanent secretary used to say that is the wrong medium. There is the Public Service Commission, there is the head of the public service, that any challenges that they meeting, that they are the ones who they should report to and get whatever it is, whether it's more staffing, whether it is not appropriate, not the materials, whatever it is. And it will be made possible for them because this is government policy that this back pay be paid by December. So I think it was a wrong move, and what it has done, it has shown a light on that particular ministry and permanent secretary for people to be staying or public officers not doing the work. But this conversation, I don't want to go to all the public officers ain't getting the money and Rowley and but and then it's a hopes and so on. Please, public officers they have nothing to get because the Public Citizens Association didn't settle for anything. It's those who are tutor and those are teachers, principal educational officers, fire who are firemen, of course, policemen, and all the security services. They are the ones who are entitled to the back pay. So the government didn't hoax nobody and nothing. And once you send in all the documentation, done the right way through the different administrative areas in the ministry, accounting, audit, and all that, then you send a request for the money and you get it released because the money not settled down in the ministry from a public PS. A PS will have to request the money because all a PS are entitled to use in the ministry is $1 million, and I'm sure the back pay is more than that. So we put that to rest. And again, the permanent secretary would have said that is not the permanent secretary from the Ministry of Finance. So I'm saying some people say, so the minister didn't know the PS, they tell them it didn't have money. It is not the same PS. Over people understand the system of things in the public service, and if you don't answer the question, otherwise you're so foolish. It was not the permanent secretary in the ministry that Minister Campbell, if the minister said that. It was not that. It was from another ministry, and I suspect it was from the Ministry of Education. So I am seeing, based on other things that has been happening for a while, that it is most likely that permanent secretary may be removed, and it will have nothing to do with the government, it will have nothing to do with Dr. Rowley. It may have to do with the Public Service Commission, and we have a public service that a senior public officer has refused to carry out instructions, which is a part of their job to do, and there may be disciplinary action to be taken at those levels. So let me get it straight. At the end of the day, again, I said, public officers did not get full. PSA didn't settle for anything, so public officers have nothing to get. And as for Leroy Baptiste jumping in the mix to extend the PS, I want to tell Leroy Baptiste, the salaries of those PS that has nothing to do with public the PSA. Those are things under the Salary Review Commission. Not only that, you want to jump out to talk about public officers, the same public officers that you are denying them the right to get their back pay based on the 4% and to go back to negotiate for a new negotiating period. You refuse them to do that, and I understand you're saying that you're going to drag it along. It is like you're going to drag it along till 2025 because of the election year and the government will give more when the election year. And what you're effectively doing is that is true. You are making it impossible for the PSA to go back to the CPO until 2026. So we'll be losing out on 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. That is a wicked and dangerous thing that you're doing, Liberty, if that is true. Thank you always, Dominic, and have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Mr. Chance, call me back. Yeah, but again, you know, and why I saw it fit to play that clip from Mr. Imbert. And I think that's the type of explanations that we need. Mr. Imbert doesn't talk often, but when he does, it's worth listening to. Because the government was faced with that situation, they had to cut expenditure. And it's interesting to note that they didn't decide, well, we will cut expenditure by sending home public servants, as happened in Barbados, which was the first thing Mia Motley did when she went in to cut expenditure based on IMF prescriptions, was to send home public servants. Not one public servant lost their work under Keith Rowley, but no credit for it. Mr. Chance.
Yes, sir. How are you, sir?
I am good, and yourself?
Well, one day at a time. You know, when you're a senior citizen, you take one day at a time.
Yes.
First of all, let me thank you again for, enriching us with your thought process in terms of what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. I first of all want to join Jenny in respect of the permanent secretary, but I want to be a bit more brutal, and bruising, Jenny was a bit very diplomatic, and I agree with that. She's an active public servant, but I'm not. I was a public servant for many years, operating in a senior position. So I understand what I'm saying. That to me, that one permanent secretary among the 23, there are about 23 of them. There are 20 ministries. Okay, have come out and says that. To me, it is smelling political. It is smelling yellow.
Yes.
It is smelling like UNC. You understand? And I make no reservation in that because that same party sought to bring sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago, to cause us to lose every cent in terms of how we could get money to run our country and live our lives, To live our lives, So I am putting nothing past them. Nothing past them. So let me repeat. That action by that permanent secretary smells yellow. It smells UNC. It smells political. And I'm incensed as the Prime Minister because when I went to vote, I voted for a government who had to manage the economy and manage how money is distributed in the economy. You understand? And I believe and I'm confident that the Prime Minister is going to take the necessary action to make sure that that happens. So I want to start off with that right away and put that to rest. And I know that the Prime Minister has to take the necessary steps to ensure that. Because permanent secretary, the job of the permanent secretary is to implement government policy. And when the Minister of Finance said, look, we want to do that, but that's a policy of the government. He didn't say that just so that comes from the cabinet. So it's a policy. And you want to play Dutch, and if the government allows this peep and Dutch to happen, every time the government wants to do something, another person will tell them, now, I can't do that next week. I was head of the department. You think I could go and tell my minister that, look, we can't do this, I could do that in August? What kind of government you have if you have your people, your administrators, just deferring things like that? What's going to happen? You're going to get nothing done. And I'm saying now that to me smells UNC and it smells yellow. But let me come to the other point. You raise a nice point with respect to Mr. Imbert. And yesterday, I had the pleasure of listening to the Barbados Labour Party convention. When the person that they talk about all the time, Ms. Motley, yes, she was talking and reporting to the people. Just as we have our convention here at the PNM. Yesterday was the Barbados. And I thought I would want to listen to that. I want to tell you something. I've said it again and again, and Jenny has said it, and you have said it. We have a phenomenal leader in Trinidad and Tobago. A distinguished leader in Trinidad and Tobago. Someone that we must be very proud of. And we have to make sure that we elevate him to the height all the time. Let me tell you something. You mentioned that when the Minister of Finance was talking, he spoke about Jamaica. Let me repeat what he said. Jamaica is in the IMS for 43 years. You hear that? 43 years. You understand? Jamaica is operating, the economy is operating under conditionality. The Minister of Finance said this, I noticed it as well. Barbados is there since 2018. And when you consider the decisions made by this government, and I'm going to deal with one today, very quickly today, I'm going to deal with the question of unemployment. When I heard the Prime Minister of Barbados talk about unemployment in Barbados, you know what it is? And they always see, when they talk about Barbados, you know what is the unemployment rate in Barbados? 8.9%. You know what is the unemployment rate in Trinidad? 3.7%. That was given by CSO. That's not politics, but I have the pleasure of dealing with someone who was head of the CSO. And he gives you the formula, how they arrive at that. It is very professional and universal in its approach. 3.7%. You know what is the unemployment rate in the United States? 3.6%. You know what is the unemployment rate in Jamaica? 6.05%. You know what it is in Bahamas? 10.1%. You know what it is in India? 7.3%. You know what in Canada? 5.2%. Why am I saying all of that? It's to show you how your government, your leader, your Minister of Finance have been managing the economy well. And that has been backed up by all these internationally rated institutions. The IMF. Let me remind you, see, I'm saying this thing, Dominic, so we must reinforce these things. We must reinforce these things when it comes to Dr. Oli's leadership. The IMF in 2023, I'm talking about the economy, indicated, the IMF I'm talking about, welcomes the prudent management of public finances. You hear that? You know what prudent means? Prudent, judicious, making sure that things are tied and not together. In other words, they say that we had teeth in the money. You know? That's what the IMF said. Prudent manages, and it seems to cement public, and it seems to under control public expenditure. See, they're controlling public expenditure, and they recommend that we continue to build on the EHSF. I said that for you to understand, because I think you did mention this thing. Kama said, she went all about and said the economy collapse. I'm listening to the Barbados Prime Minister and talking about how they are setting their party to get out of the IMF. And Trinidad and Tobago, according to all these international rating agencies, we're on the right path. Notice I'm saying, not saying we were six, not saying all the ducks in a row. I'm not saying we are perfect, but we're on the right path economically. And we're on the right path in several other areas. So I thought I wanted to interject with that, particularly with the unemployment rate. And I want to say something about what the unemployment rate is a guide, you know. Hear this as well. Fact, a healthy economy maintains an unemployment rate between 3% and 5%. You know? We define it as a healthy economy. Ours is 3.7. So we're in the range of a healthy economy. And you have this lady walking around the place and saying, the economy collapse. And we must, I'm asking our callers and listeners to focus on that part. Because that is the yardstick they use to say we're hungry and we're drinking barley juice and we're scrambling and we're scraping all about the place. But we have to get the facts over to them. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, Dominic.
Yes,
it was a pleasure listening to the head of the Barbados country yesterday and understanding where we are as a country, where we are from the leadership of Dr. Oli, and to see where Mia Motley is now following behind. Dr. Oli is leading the way. And let me close by telling you that. You know what is the big issue yesterday when she was talking of first, because she was talking about reform. You know the first thing? National insurance reform. Same thing in Trinidad and Tobago. She said Barbados cannot continue to support the national insurance scheme when later down in life you would not be able to pay the Barbadians. She said the national insurance scheme must serve Barbadians for time to come. Same thing happening in Trinidad and Tobago. That was our number one reform. So people, pay attention. Your leader is phenomenal. And in the words of Jenny, he's also transformational. Pay attention and support your leader. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chance. Well said. Well said. There's another issue I wanted to touch on. I'll leave that for Tuesday, right? As it pertains to the attempts to try and get Dr. Rowley and they to take a definitive position with respect to this issue between Guyana and Venezuela. And we understand where the UNC is coming from. They're trying to go Dr. Rowley. He must say something and take a position. Doppy, feel they smart. So Dr. Rowley must say things to get Maduro vexed, to scuttle the drug and gas deal. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. CARICOM made a statement, right? That is fitting because they're not calling on Barbados or Jamaica or any of these other countries' prime ministers to say something. No, Keith Rowley must say something and Trinidad and Tobago must lead the way. Really? Trinidad and Tobago, of all the other Caribbean countries, has the most to lose by making any outer timing statement with respect to that. And that is exactly what they want. But they are patriots and they love this country, but trying to see how best they could scuttle his brother and gas here. Stay there with them. Let them stay there with that. Hello, good afternoon. So let me get this here. Hello. Yes, sir.
Yes, Dominic. Hello. Yes, man. How are you going?
Good, man.
Yes, man. Enjoying your program. Continue.
Thank you.
No? Yes. Don't mind do that. Nobody stop here. I see you post some things on your page, boy, and like a master paper poem.
I didn't post that, sir.
Yeah, but some people corn, boy.
No, not me. We have other admins. That wasn't me. I didn't post that, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, boy.
Yeah.
Well, it shows that they're under their radar. So
yes.
Yeah, so you're bringing out the message and they taking heed.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say, Dominic, is this country really had to decide what they want for 2025.
Yes.
Particularly Tobago. I see them having fun with the carnival, the so-called Tobago carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at more people having fun and dancing about.
You mean they're not suffering?
And just a few days ago, everybody vexed with the government and they increase of utility bills.
Yes.
So all you're finding money to buy all your G-strings, to buy all your rum, to buy all your ticket and mine and jam for carnival for the next days or so. But all I can't find the money to pay property tax and pay utility bills. You see that dichotomy that's facing in this country, Dominic?
Yes.
Can you tell you what is wrong here? We don't have any money. The country is suffering. We have to eat grant. But Trinidadians went up into the home, spending money, book hotel, and find money to play to jump up for carnival. And they find the money to jump up for mass.
Yes.
But they can't find money to pay the utility bills and their property tax. I will listen out here because something wrong with this place. It's not adding up. The maths is not matching.
Not matching at all.
It's not matching at all. I can't understand that. Somebody help out here. It is very strange.
Yes.
You have a good evening. Like I wanted to talk about that thing around Rashmara and this thing with the channel, but you see that is a whole damn can of worms that would not be. So anybody could back up this country and talk about succession also. Number thing. Yes, I go on.
Thank you, sir. Right. Mr. Yates, I'm having a little challenge with my phone here. So you gotta call me on 770-1763. Yeah, phone giving me some stress today. Anyway. It's probably telling me it's time to get a new one. Soon come. I saw somebody was talking about, right, 5 bandits went to a home invasion in Charlieville, put a towel in a 77-year-old's mouth, and the woman died of a heart attack the next day. Imagine the son witnessed that pain, and no one is talking about that. No arrest. That too is most unfortunate. And again, and you see situations like that, and I make this point so that when I hear Jayanti Lakshmidiyal advocating that such persons who commit these crimes should get bail or have the right to access bail, because to do otherwise is to create or to encourage or facilitate single parent homes and fatherless children. I want to tell Jayanti, if these perpetrators were so concerned about their children being fatherless and their wives being single parent, then they wouldn't have turned to a life of crime, because they know what could occasion that. So if they don't care about their wife being a single parent and don't care about their children being fatherless, why the hell should we care? Why should we care? So why should we advocate? Yes, give them bail so that they could go out and stuff and lead a normal family life, so that they could continue to distress us. To distress, they couldn't care less about the people that they make fatherless and that they make single parent. They don't care. When they shoot with gay abandon, when they go with this because they go with the intention to kill, Jayanti. Miss us with our BS now. Please. Don't ask me to care about their families if they don't care about anybody else's. We will meet and treat with them in the same way that they choose to meet and treat with people. Simple as that. So when you want to advocate that so that they could go and commit more crimes, so it's more work and more opportunities for you and your cohorts and your colleagues to make money, that's all your business. Right? That doesn't benefit the rest of us. Because when our loved ones are lost, you ain't coming to commiserate and offer no condolences and all of that. You go in the parliament to talk a pack of nonsense. But we'll continue to advocate for that. Right? And maybe it's only when it is reached literally on your doorstep and one of your loved ones, your family members, is the victim of a home invasion or dies, then you will stop talking that trash. Then, and only then, you will stop talking that trash. But for now, you good, because your family members safe. Brian.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Greetings, sir.
Good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Has any one of the people like Jayanti or the lady who says that children are so dear to her heart want to visit the father of the young girl who was raped and brutalized a year ago, and after she did her identification was killed, I think the next night, by a person who was on bail for murder? Have they gone to visit that father who said he was only living for his daughter?
No.
Have they gone there yet to say, well, we are sorry and that I feel your pain? They took a trip up Rio Claro to talk to this father who was living in a little board house and while his daughter slept in that little bed together with her uncle who was in couldn't walk properly but was out of a wheelchair, and he died too, murdered. They went to see her as yet. So when I listen to people like Jayanti Lakshmidia saying that these accused murderers must get bail so that they could come out and see about their children and get a job and be, productive parents and husbands and so on. Who is Jayanti Lakshmidia singing to? How many files does Freedom Chambers have on their desk of accused murderers, robberies, rapes on their desk before the court that they have to deal with? Will they tell us? Because every time, as you rightly said a while ago, every time you hear about these type of major cases, you only hear certain names of certain attorneys. You understand? So all these people supposed to get bail so that they could be outside there to perhaps deal with certain witnesses or deal with certain people, regardless of the age of the witness. There could be 13, there could be 39, there could be 99, it doesn't matter. Understand? Because these so-called accused murderers have money to buy, to pay for these type of high-priced attorneys. These poor fellas who have to come out and see about their children and their wives and so on, but they could afford to hire high-priced senior counsel, the red mark fella, and these high-priced attorneys, they have money for that. They have money to have people there could be able to post their bail because the bail ain't cheap. You understand? And nobody asking, well, how you get money to hire these type of, you all have an agreement whereby you will go to come out and work and pay? Where you getting money for that? What kind of job you going to get? You going to contribute to NIS? You going to contribute to the taxes? What type of job you coming out to look for to get? Giant, you must tell us. Where they going going to work? Who's going to hire them? Tell us who's going to hire these workers, these so-called accused murderers. Tell us, these robbers, these home invaders, these rapists who must get bail. Tell us who's going to hire these people, Jayanti? You? You're going to hire them in areas where you live, Jayanti, like in Gulfview? That posh area where you live? Who's going to hire them to cut the grass? Who's going to hire them to come and clean the houses, to paint the houses, to clean the driveways and so on and wash the cars? Who's going to hire them, Jayanti? You? Tell us. What kind of jobs they're going to get to support these families that they so love and the children missing them and will grow up without them? Tell us. You will never ever get an answer from people like Jayanti Lakshmi. You'll never get that answer as she continues to move the goalpost to suit them. And those who have died and gone and below the grass or have met the cremation sites, the 400 and something, because as a guy said some time ago, there's somebody playing with the figures. Because just 2 weeks ago, it was 464. Nobody going to nearly 500. So somebody boosting the figure to make it look good. To find it going too slow. And somebody came on another frequency and spoke about it. I even recognized it. That somebody want to boost up the figures because the fine now, but it might reach 600.
Yes.
So maybe get a little boost now. You know, and send the figures out there. Nobody questioning the figures. Tony Lee said he would investigate it. I wonder if he has. We'll find out this week. But that is how it is in this country, because once it passed 600, it will look good on the resume of the People's National Movement and this government. Because that is how they believe they will get back into office.
Yes.
Understand? That's what they believe. So it's okay. Get bail for all of them. And I think you are right, because apparently they're picking and choosing. Because I know an individual who is behind bars for 9 years. How come they didn't work on his case yet? Because every time I inquire about the young gentleman, he's still there. That's why murder that had took place in Tobago 9 years ago. How come? They're picking and choosing. And you see the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Dominic, who hate the PNM, who dislike the PNM, will listen to that and support that. You understand? So Jayanti will come out every single time. Because you see, more cases they have outside there, Dominic. And it's 1 or 2 cases going to the before a judge and being completed. And you have the law clerks busy running from court to court saying this attorney is in another court dealing with another matter and could be asking for postponement, and they get it postponed and these good judges have no problem in saying, no problem, let's stand it down. What date is good for her? What date is good for her from now? December the 6th, December the 8th. And when that time comes along, well, it's Christmas. So they could be next year again.
Correct.
No problem. But they're not saying, hey, nah, man, how long this will go on for? How long will we continue to postpone in this case? Well, they must be ready by now. How many cases do they have to deal with? How many attorneys they have? You will never hear those questions being asked. Because you know why? It's a fraternity, Dominic. It's a fraternity of attorneys and judges and so on. So as I keep saying, when the Minister of National Security said that certain people are friends in the judiciary, he knew what he was saying. Well, they come down on him as a ton of X. But there's a fraternity. That's like you have a fraternity in engineering, in the medical field. There are fraternities. So me going and lick you up just so. Me doing that. These brothers, these sisters. Right? We lock arms and we support each other. Yes? Only when you want to continue the matter and go to finish, I will like deal with you. But if it you can't come. No scene. We will just point off. And you have these men coming back and forth between the courts every single time. and staying behind bars, and then you have Dianti and her friends coming and saying, well, you know, and if you have money, Dominic, if you have money, you bring a motion. You bring a motion that has to be looked at, and the motion has to go through that court, then it has to go through the appeal court, then it has to go through the Privy Council, and they keep bringing motions and motions and motions and motions, and case getting postponed. Look at simple case. Look at the case with David Lee. We're never done. Since 2020 August, Justice Abood read out the matter pertaining to EMBD. That's 3 years now. When they go call? At anywhere near calling? Since 2016, there were rape cases of a certain gentleman who wanted to be called his worship. 2016, 7 years. When they go call, Dominic, tell me, a rape case. When they go call, so you sitting down there waiting. And then you have a DPP coming to tell you, well, this one dead. This one gone away.
Yes.
And some people can't remember.
So it don't make sense pursuing the case.
Huh?
So it doesn't make sense to pursue this matter.
Exactly. So we will let this one go.
Yeah.
And so on, and so on, and so on. And when it's done, on top of that, they add insult to injury. And they have been persecuted by this government. They've been persecuted. And I'm going to take up this matter. I'm going to court because I've been persecuted. And then the people of Trinidad and Tobago had to take money out of the treasury to pay these people because they have been persecuted all these years. Persecuted. Understand? And you have a next one balling. Lucky 7 coming and balling. Have you heard the good news? Have you heard the good news? And this is what the cycle continues, Dominic. When will it end? When will it end? So you could afford to come in the parliament and talk that stupidness for those who don't want to read and listen and understand. But not me. She ain't fooling me. I just shake my head when I see her. Because I know what she's about. And the longer these cases go on, the more her boss is protected. And then I wonder when that case got called. Dr. Rowley turned 74 the other day. Happy birthday, Honorable Prime Minister. The Honorable Prime Minister, I wonder when your case will call, Honorable Prime Minister. I wonder when. I guess by that time, you mightn't even be Prime Minister anymore. You might be seeing out your sheep and goat in Tobago. Yes, that is how it is in this country.
Yep.
Understand? I will be have to live with. Because there's a fraternity who don't give a damn. You know why? Because come month end, they go get the money, some of them. And then I have cases that tell him, well, you know, you have to keep paying me, you know, because your case continues and I'm representing you. So you have to keep running the money. And if you have no money to run, but you have to get another attorney after that and suck you dry. Our $250,000 to $500,000. And you're broke in the teeth, your family broken. But you had no more money to keep paying me, so I gone. You had to get somebody else. Have a good day. And there's nothing you can do. And then you're talking about let these people out because they have families. What about those who are dead and gone? What about their families? I am so sorry, but maybe one day we may get somebody who will stand up and say enough is enough. And we deal with these people. And I bet you it would shake up that fraternity so much that you could see them jumping around like jackrabbits, trying to bring it back in the order that they like to have it. So when you have a good weekend, and you take care of yourself.
Thank you. I did memory short too. I heard Janti saying, oh, they like to accuse you and say everything on corruption, but the only former government minister who's still before the court is Marlene. No, Jayanti. Anand Ramlogan is still before the court on a witness tampering case, right? Where that resulted in his firing and the firing of Gary Griffith as well. Or they keep forgetting that matter is still before the court. And you of all people, Jayanti, should know that because you in Ramlogan chambers. So you don't know your boss or whoever relationship or they have that he still have a matter before the court and a serious one at that. Look, only a joke, Kiwi. Real jokey. Talking nonsense. Only coming in parliament and talking a pack of nonsense. This next one, I will deal with David Naked on another day. I don't have the time for him today. Waste that time. Yeah, but look. This Kamala have them there. She has all confidence in them, right? To do what it is they need to do. Folks, it is 3 o'clock, and I have another right, yes. So I have something else to attend to. So let me thank you all for joining me this late afternoon, so many of you, but it couldn't be helped this morning, but God's willing, we'll be back on Tuesday morning where we will continue to discuss the issues as they present themselves. I didn't want to postpone today to Sharon's day because I want Sharon must have her full audience and so on. So thank you all, Angela Marie Villafana. Thank you so much, Donna Seeley, Judy Bowen, John Davis. Good afternoon to all of you. Angela Figaro. Thank you so much. Valine. Yes, Jayanti mad. Very mad. they have convenient memory, Valine. Daniela Williams, thank you so much. Rude, good afternoon to you. Annette Neptune. That's okay, Annette, you could always replay. I was very, very late today too, but it couldn't be helped as I said. So folks, I'll join you again or join me again on Tuesday morning, God's willing, where we'll have another discussion. We'll see what transpires over the course of the next 2 days in sweet TNT, contrary to what others may be saying. And to all the suffering people who are crossing Tobago now, all these suffering Trinidadians who can't afford to make ends meet, who can't afford to pay the bills, who cannot afford the increase in the TNT rates, and who can't afford to put gas in the car, but you all have money to buy plane tickets and go to Tobago and play in Juve band and parade at the bands and so on and stay in guest house and like yourself, rent car and all of these things. I'm talking to those who always complaining they're suffering and always talking suffering and this government wicked and they're struggling. I hope you all not struggling in Tobago for the 3 days or 4 days that you went across there. Yeah, it's only when you come back to Trinidad you're suffering, but when you go across to Tobago, all suffering done as soon as you land at the A&R Robinson Airport. Folks, yes, out there says Tobago ram out. I saw pictures out there, very much so, and I see plenty of my friends too, trainees across there, whining low. When I go on Facebook and I see it, they're whining low in Tobago, liking themselves. But then want to come and cuss Dr. Rowley and they have money. And Christmas around the corner, they won't find money for that too. And then right after that, Trinidad Carnival, Stink and Dirty, Bacchanal Road, you name it. Some of them done buy the costume already. They're ready to go, but they're suffering. Yeah? Priorities. That's the problem. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. Thank you so much.